Chapter 5:17. When His Highness Eric took over as king, there were many people in Banta City who couldn't help feeling a bit panicked. Her Highness Seveni was the city lord of Banta City, so Banta City could be considered Seveni's back garden. It was her loyal supporter and shield. Now that His Highness Eric had taken the throne, according to convention, he would take care of the previous situation. A city like Banta City that supported Her Highness Seveni would definitely be targeted by His Highness Eric. Of all the companies in Banta City, the one that worried people the most was naturally the New Flyer. The relationship between the New Flyer and Her Highness Seveni was the closest in Banta City. The chairman Su-Yi was a firm supporter of Her Highness Seveni and had rejected His Highness Eric's recruitment many times. He had almost completely broken off relations with His Highness Eric before. To everyone, the New Flyer was without a doubt a thorn in His Highness Eric's side. Once he took the throne, the New Flyer definitely wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being taken care of. It was because of this worry that even Su-Yi had to make plans ahead of time. He was forced to stop the development of the Falling Rain Valley and move some of the most precious resources of the New Flyer to the base in the Principality of Constantine, guarding against His Highness Eric's attack. But the facts exceeded everyone's expectations. After His Highness Eric took the throne, he didn't do anything excessive to Banta City. Not only did he not attack the New Flyer like everyone expected, he even made a special announcement praising the New Flyer's contributions to Banta City's development. This had shocked everyone's jaws. Moreover, although the new Banta City Lord who took over for Seveni was King Eric. Alright, he should be called King Eric now. After coming to Banta City, he was very friendly to Su-Yi and the New Flyer. He wasn't like Count Stag who targeted the New Flyer as soon as he became the City Lord. Other than this, the new City Lord expressed that he would continue supporting the development of Banta City's magic machine industry. He was itching for the good foundation Her Highness Seveni had laid, turning Banta City into a prosperous city that could become a model for the Lampari Kingdom. Everyone was confused by the attitude of King Eric and the new City Lord. His Majesty Eric. Just what was he thinking? Regarding this question, King Eric had made a clear statement in an interview with the Lampari Weekly. He said in this interview that he was just a normal prince before. Because he was fighting for the throne with Her Highness Seveni, naturally he would treat the New Flyer, who was a firm supporter of Seveni, as an enemy, so of course he would target them. But once he took the throne and began to think from the perspective of a king, he found that the magic machine industry represented by the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce had a large effect on the development of the Lampari Kingdom. Since he was the king of the kingdom, the first thing he considered was the development of the kingdom. The New Flyer and the magic machine industry were beneficial to the kingdom, so of course he would support the New Flyer and the magic machine industry's development. It wasn't strange for him to change his attitude towards the New Flyer. Through King Eric's statement in this interview, everyone suddenly understood. It had to be said, King Eric's explanation was very reasonable. He was already the king, so naturally his eyes couldn't be that narrow. No matter what he did, he had to consider the benefits of the entire kingdom. It's said that, after this interview was published in the Lampari Weekly, the voices that were against His Highness Eric taking the throne had disappeared by quite a bit. King Eric's prestige had increased by an unprecedented amount in the kingdom. Even in Banta City, that was the most worried about King Eric, there were many voices that supported the new king. For a while, the situation of the Lampari Kingdom was like what Seveni had told Su-Yi before. As long as the throne was smoothly transferred, the Lampari Kingdom would have the most stable and good development. Seeing the situation in Banta City and the kingdom, even Su-Yi was shaken for a while. However, the facts showed that everyone was happy too early, especially Su-Yi. A month after His Highness Eric took the throne, it didn't seem like much at first glance, but if one looked closely, there was news that was bad for the New Flyer that kept coming. First was the factories that the new flyer had set up in the various cities of the kingdom that were being inspected by the city lord manor. In name, it was because the king cared about the development of the magic machine industry, so he wanted to investigate the most representative new flyer first. But in reality, during the investigation, there were many magic machines in the new flyer's factories. Even the entire production line was taken away in the name of investigating. There were even some workers and engineers that were taken away in the name of assisting in the investigation. Although these people were released, the production magic machines and other equipment were never returned. After that, the kingdom's parliament established a special magic machine industry management department. As the name implied, it was used to manage the various companies involved in the magic machine industry in the Lampari kingdom. The first one to bear the brunt was naturally the new flyer. According to the rules of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, as long as it was a company involved in the magic machine industry, they had to be managed by the department. As for the management, it required all the companies involved in the magic machine industry to unconditionally cooperate with the department. For example, the department required all the companies involved in the magic machine industry to have a certificate from the department before they could start production. On this certificate, the administration department set up a corresponding certificate for different magic machines. So for a company like the new flyer that produced over 100 kinds of magic machines, they had to apply for over 100 certificates. Not mentioning the complicated process of applying for a certificate, the fees they had to pay weren't small. Just for the magic refrigerator certificate, if they wanted to obtain it, they had to pay over 300 gold coins. After the Frestec Chamber of Commerce obtained a certificate for all their magic machines, they had spent over 40,000 gold coins on this. As for the gray expenses that couldn't be avoided during the application process, it wasn't less than this. This meant that just for the certificate, the new flyer had spent over 80,000 gold coins. And the time limit for the certificate was only 1 year. If it was said that spending a few tens of thousands of gold coins a year didn't affect the new flyer that much, then there was another rule that Sui couldn't accept. In the name of supporting the development of the magic machine industry in the kingdom, the department requested the new flyer to open up their unique technology to the other companies in the kingdom to help them develop. This request was firmly rejected by Sui. Moreover, when the department asked the other companies for their opinions, they were also opposed by the majority. Almost all the companies agreed that this rule went against the most basic business principles. If the department enforced it, it would be the same as breaking the iron rules of all the companies in the Lampari kingdom. For the sake of their own reputation, no company dared to support this decision. Because the opposition was too strong, the department could only give up. However, through this matter, Sui was able to see through King Eric's true thoughts. It wasn't that he didn't want to deal with the new flyer, rather he really wanted to. But perhaps it was because of his agreement with 70, perhaps it was because he had just ascended the throne, so he needed to keep some face, or perhaps it was because someone was giving him advice, so he wasn't that direct. It could be said that he didn't want to eat in such an ugly manner. In short, he was using slow and gentle methods that didn't attract attention to deal with the new flyer and the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce's magic machine industry. Sui of course could guess his true thoughts. As a king, of course he wanted to firmly grasp the magic machine industry that had a deep influence on the Lampari kingdom in his hands. After this, the new city lord implemented a business tax reform in Banta City. In Sui's eyes, it was already a sign that he couldn't wait any longer. This business tax reform was simply like raising a butcher's knife against the magic machine industry represented by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. He wanted to cut off a large piece of this fat meat and fill up the stubborn nobles behind him that supported him on the throne. Every time he thought of this business tax reform, Sui couldn't help giving a cold laugh in his heart. His Highness Eric had finally ascended the throne with the support of the nobles, but how could these nobles support him for free? No matter how much they paid, these greedy nobles would naturally want to receive several times or even several dozen times the return. With Duke Stagg as the Prime Minister and the Director of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, it was very clear that this was the case. But these were all Su Yi's speculations. He couldn't tell Seveni in detail. Seeing Seveni in deep thought, Su Yi gave a sigh in his heart. He didn't know how much Seveni knew about this situation. If she knew Prince Eric's series of actions, would she regret letting down the expectations of countless people and completely giving up on fighting for the throne? A young man wearing the uniform of the new flyer suddenly ran over from the distance. He was panting as he stood in front of Su Yi, waking up Su Yi and Seveni, who were deep in thought. Is something the matter? Su Yi was a bit confused. He had told them not to disturb his private conversation with Seveni. Sir Chairman, Kamadu City. The Lord City Lord is here. The young man replied while panting. Oh? The Lord City Lord is here again? Su Yi turned to Seveni with a smile. Your Highness, are you interested in watching a good play? Chapter 518. It was different from the three Banta City Lords Su Yi had met before. The new Banta City Lord Count Kaneno Kamadu didn't need Su Yi to take the initiative to visit the City Lord Manor. Rather, in the 3 months that he had been in office, he would take the initiative to meet with Su Yi. According to what Kamadu had told Su Yi in private, this was because the magic machine industry represented by the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce was the most important industry in Banta City. As the new Flyers chairman, Su Yi was naturally the one he needed to win over the most. That was what he said, and that was what he did. In these 3 months, not only did he take the initiative to meet with Su Yi, he was very polite to Su Yi each time. It wasn't like how a respected Lord City Lord would normally treat a normal merchant. Other than this, in many public occasions, he often called Su Yi the business leader of Banta City. He said that the heavy responsibility of Banta City's development was placed on Su Yi and that he as the city lord only played a supporting role. This wasn't opposed by anyone because the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's use was obvious to all. This was a fact that almost everyone in Banta City recognized. But Su Yi firmly refused to accept this. He was very clear that although the new Flyers development was good, it had only been established for a short time. Compared to those old companies, it was still lacking in terms of foundation. For example, if Su Yi wanted to expand the new Flyers guards, he could only recruit some stragglers. For an old company like the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce that had the support of the Joel family behind them, they could recruit several thousand guards with just a single word. Moreover, there had to be a demon behind this abnormality. Kamadu was a city lord, but he was this polite to Su Yi. This definitely wasn't normal. After all, the new business tax policy reform that was clearly aimed at the new Flyer and the magic machine industry represented by the new Flyer came from this city lord. Su Yi returned to the Falling Star Manor, and as soon as he entered, he saw City Lord Kamadu pacing in the garden. As soon as he saw Su Yi, City Lord Kamadu immediately greeted him with a smile. Chairman Su, you're really busy. Every time I want to come to the Falling Star Manor to look for you, you're never resting at home. Su Yi shrugged his shoulders. There's no other way. There are too many things to do in the Chamber of Commerce. If I want to go home and rest, I can only do so when it's very late. Most of the time, I would just rest in the Falling Rain Valley and not go home at all. Sir City Lord, you came here to look for me. Naturally, you're going to miss me. City Lord Kamadu smiled and said, That's not right. When Madame Steele was here, Chairman Su often came home. Could it be that now that Madame Steele is not here, Chairman Su has no reason to go home? Or, Chairman Su, you took advantage of Madame's absence to find a new lover outside? Su Yi rolled his eyes. Even if I wanted to find a lover, I wouldn't dare. You see, Steele left a spy here to monitor me. After that, Sui pointed to Liz, who was in charge of serving tea and was left behind by Steele to take care of Sui. Liz, go and prepare lunch. The time is just right. Sir City Lord will stay here to eat later. Liz just agreed, but City Lord Camadou waved his hand repeatedly. No, 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 the mistress is not at home, so I won't disturb you. And I have an appointment with President Cruz at noon to have lunch. Chairman Sue, ask this beautiful maid to bring out 2 stools. We'll sit in this garden and talk about things. You have an appointment with President Cruz and the others. Sui glanced at City Lord Camadou, but didn't ask much. He asked Liz to bring out 2 stools and a small table according to City Lord Camadou's instructions, and prepare tea and pastries. Then he turned to look at City Lord Camadou and waited for him to speak. City Lord Camadou paused, looked around the garden, and suddenly shook his head with emotion. Chairman Sue, there is still a big difference between a manor with and without a mistress. I remember when I first came here, this garden was neatly tidied up, and all kinds of flowers and plants bloomed brightly. And now, don't you think it's a bit messy? Hearing that City Lord Camadou wanted to drag Steele into every sentence, Sui sneered in his heart, but kept a smile on his face. Sir City Lord is right. I'm someone who never cares about these things. Without Steele, naturally no one cares. And now Liz is the only one left in the manor. It's already extremely hard for her to serve me in my daily life, so she can't care so much. Well, I can understand this. But Chairman Sue, Mrs. Steele has been away for a month this time, right? Is she still not planning to come back? City Lord Camadou asked. Sui shook his head. Well, she had a lot of fun in the Principality of Constantine, and Freya is also very adapted to the environment there. Since they like it, then they can have fun there for a while. I won't urge them to come back. Is that so? City Lord Camadou looked at Sui with a deep gaze and revealed a smile, but he didn't keep asking this question. After chatting for a while, Liz brought out the tables and chairs, and the 2 sat down in the garden. The sun was not too strong today, and there was a breeze, so it was very comfortable to sit in the garden. After the 2 drank tea and chatted for a while, City Lord Camadou suddenly put down the teacup in his hand and straightened his face. Chairman Sue, I came to you today because of what happened last time. I want to ask, have you thought about it? Well, Sui made a difficult expression. I have already told you last time, City Lord, that the full cooperation with the Kingdom's Academy of Magic is a major event related to the overall development of our Chamber of Commerce. Even if I'm the president, I can't make the decision alone. So, this matter is still being discussed internally in the Chamber of Commerce, and there is no definite answer for the time being. Then in Chairman Sue's opinion, is it possible to pass in the end? City Lord Camadou stared at Sui with a hint of coercion in his expression. Or, Chairman Sue, what is your attitude towards this cooperation? I don't think I need to say more about your influence in New Flyer. As long as you agree, I think this matter has a great chance of success. As for myself, in principle, of course I agree very much. Sui looked up at the sky and laughed. Cooperating with the Kingdom's Academy of Magic to jointly research and develop magic machines is very beneficial for New Flyer and the entire kingdom. How can I be against it? Chairman Sue, you are a wise and far-sighted person. Of course you know the pros and cons. City Lord Camadou nodded. According to the king's instructions, as long as New Flyer agrees to this cooperation, then any resources of the Kingdom's Academy of Magic can be used by the Chamber of Commerce. In other words, New Flyer can directly ask the noble mages of the Kingdom's Academy of Magic to do any research for you. I think, with the help of so many powerful mages, New Flyer will definitely achieve better results than before. I firmly believe in this. Sui nodded with a faint smile. But Lord City Lord, you should know that this is a large matter, so I hope that you can give us some time to consider it, all right? Seeing the expression on Su Yi's face, City Lord Kamadou thought about it before giving a nod. All right, I can understand your worries. But Chairman Su, I hope that you can consider it as soon as possible and give me a reply. His Majesty has already given you and your new flyer enough patience. I hope that you won't disappoint him. Definitely. Su Yi had a smile, not revealing any unwillingness at all. Chairman Kamadou took a deep look at Su Yi before raising his teacup to take a sip. After that, he casually said, "Right, Chairman Su, I've heard that your company has recently sent a batch of new military magic machines to Seoul City?" Su Yi wasn't surprised at all as he said with a calm look, "This is the military equipment for the Third Army. It was prepared according to the orders of His Majesty 13th before he passed away." "I know. But, Chairman Su, please stop the following supplies. It's fine to send normal goods to Seoul City, but don't send any more military magic machines." City Lord Kamadou waved his hand as he said this. "Why?" Su Yi was a bit surprised. "These are the orders of His Majesty 13th. I'm just following his wishes." Hearing Su Yi mention His Majesty 13th, City Lord Kamadou couldn't help knitting his brows. The situation in the kingdom is different now, so of course you can't follow the orders from before. Remember, any military equipment in the kingdom must be supervised by the royal army and can only be sent after receiving approval. This also includes the military equipment you sent to the Principality of Constantine, understood? Isn't this a blatant warning? Su Yi looked at the serious City Lord Kamadou. He thought that if the other people of Banta City saw City Lord Kamadou's tone and expression, they wouldn't think that the new Lord City Lord would give Su Yi any special treatment, right? After thinking for a bit, Su Yi asked, "Then Lord City Lord, what about the normal household magic machines? The household magic machines that our company sold to other countries before were obtained from His Majesty 13th. So shouldn't we take them back now?" City Lord Kamadou shook his head. "There's no need since normal household magic machines don't affect the safety of the kingdom. But for the products sold to other countries, the kingdom has new regulations." "How about the Lord City Lord? Tell me about it." "According to His Majesty's orders, the products sold to other countries and regions should be adjusted accordingly. As for the specific adjustment, if nothing unexpected happens, it should be announced at the end of the month. Your new flyer is the company that is the most involved in foreign trade in our Banta City, so Chairman Su, you should be prepared." "Oh." Su Yi found this funny as he asked, "Then this adjustment, is it higher or lower?" "There's no definite news yet, Chairman Su, don't make wild guesses." City Lord Kamadou shook his head. After pausing, he continued, "But I ask Chairman Su to remember that any tax adjustment is for the prosperity of the Lampari Kingdom, so I hope that you can understand His Majesty's decision." Su Yi gave a cold laugh in his heart, but he still had a faint smile on his face as he gave a nod. "I understand." Chapter 519. City Lord Kamadou had just left the Falling Star Manor in his private horse carriage when Seveni came out of the small room closest to the garden. Coming to Su Yi's side, looking at the horse carriage in the distance from the manor, Seveni slightly knit her brows and gave a sigh. "He's actually riding a horse carriage. How can people believe that he really supports the development of the magic machine industry and supports your new flyer?" Su Yi looked at Seveni with a bit of surprise. "The angle you pay attention to really is strange. But regarding this, everyone in Banta City, including me, already knows this. Although this Lord City Lord seems to be supporting us on the surface, the things he does are clearly targeting the magic machine industry, or more accurately, targeting our new flyer." Seveni thought for a bit before asking, "He just said that he hopes your company can cooperate with the Kingdom's Academy of Magic. What is the specific method of cooperation?" Su Yi gave a cold laugh. "The Lord City Lord is representing His Majesty King Eric to make this request to me. There are a bunch of conditions and a bunch of benefits for our company, but in summary, he wants our company to open up all the magic machine-related technology to the kingdom's magic research facility. Fully open? Seveni's eyes popped out in shock. Seveni's eyes widened, big brother. Is he crazy? Sui gave a shrug. I don't know about this. But during this time, City Lord Kamadou has come looking for me many times and his tone has become more strict each time. You also heard what he said just now. This City Lord is already threatening me. If I choose not to obey. Your Highness, what do you think? Will be waiting for me and the new flyer? Seveni was silent for a bit before her expression gradually became serious. No. I can't let Big Brother do this. Not only is he breaking the basic rules of the kingdom, it will also seriously affect your company's confidence in the kingdom and it will greatly affect the royal family's reputation. I must properly discuss this with Big Brother. I can't let him keep making this mistake. Sui looked at Seveni, who had a rare look of anger on her face, and shook his head. No, Seveni, it's best you don't do that. The moment you announced that you had completely given up the fight for the throne, you had already lost this qualification. If you want to do that, it will arouse the suspicion of King Eric. That won't do you any good. Then what should we do? Could it be that you're planning on being forced to accept it? Seveni tightly knit her brows as she looked at Sui, suddenly shaking her head. No, Sui, I know you. You're not the kind of person who would submit so easily. That's why you chose to move New Flyer and your family to the Principality of Constantine. You want to give up the Lampari Kingdom, don't you? Sui revealed a smile. He didn't admit it or deny it. Then, Your Highness, now that you know all this, do you still intend to persuade me? Seveni fell silent again. After a while, she shook her head with a bitter smile. I don't know. Let me give it a try. If Big Brother can listen to my persuasion and correct his mistakes, there is still hope, right? Sui gave a sigh in his heart and was too lazy to persuade Seveni. Although Seveni came from the royal family, she always had a very naive aura that Sui felt. If Eric had listened to her advice and corrected his mistakes, he wouldn't have caused so much trouble now. Actually, in the end, there were many things that King Eric didn't want to do. In Suyi's eyes, he was just a pitiful puppet controlled by the large nobles of the kingdom. Hearing the conversation between City Lord Kamadou and Sui, seeing that Banta City's situation wasn't as good as it seemed on the surface, Seveni's good mood when she came here had completely disappeared. She lost interest in playing in Banta City. After a quick lunch, she drove the silver-white magic sedan that Sui had given her after leaving Banta City. It didn't look that outstanding and directly left Banta City. Based on the direction she left in, she shouldn't have given up and was heading to Anvilmar City. Sui was certain that she wouldn't have any use in seeing King Eric this time, but he didn't have any thoughts of stopping her. He would just let Seveni do her best, even if it was meaningless. After sending Seveni off, Sui quickly returned to his busy work state. Moving the new flyer wasn't as easy as when Baron Belil first came here. At that time, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce only had 2 small factories and only had 2 production lines. They just needed to move some production magic machines, and it was considered a complete relocation. But now the new flyer had over 500 people in the Academy of Magic and the Magic Machine Development Center, which was quite large. Since Sui decided to move them, it had already been a month, and they were only halfway there. As for the other factories under the new flyer in the Falling Rain Valley, there were a total of 37 factories. To move them all, it wasn't just a problem of how hard it was basically impossible. Sui drove his personal magic sedan into the Falling Rain Valley. When the car stopped, there were many workers wearing the uniform of the new flyer that came over. Aren't you working? What are you doing here? Sui got out of the car and looked around at the workers before asking this with a frown. The workers looked at each other and after hesitating for a bit, A young girl who looked to be around 30 wearing the uniform of the bicycle workshop asked in a loud voice, "Sir Chairman, can you tell us the truth? Is our Frestec Chamber of Commerce about to close?" "That's right, Sir Chairman, we wouldn't really be closing, right? It was hard enough for me to enter our company, and if we really close, where will we find a job? Sir Chairman, I beg you, please don't close the door. My family is counting on my salary to survive. If I lose this job, then my whole family will have to go hungry." "Right. There are already several magic machine companies in the city that have closed. My little brother has already lost his job, and if I lose my job, our family will be finished. Sir Chairman, this can't be true, right?" Sir Chairman, seeing the expectant looks of the people around him, Sue knit his brows and reprimanded, "Who told you that our new flyer was closing? What nonsense! Then why did the Academy of Magic and the Magic Machine Development Center move out? I've also heard that the Steel Mill and the Magic Machine Workshop are also moving out." It was the same young girl who asked in a loud voice. "Right, I've also heard that there are several workshops in the Household Magic Machine Department that are about to stop working." "Sir Chairman," Sue raised his hand and cut off everyone's chatter. He looked around and said with a serious look, "I'm seriously telling everyone here. Our new flyer is not a small company, so of course we can't close just because we want to. Other than that, I can clearly tell everyone that our company's profits are good right now. In short, we can earn quite a bit of money. Haven't you noticed that not only has the orders of the workshops not decreased, they've actually increased? But I've heard people say that if we make magic machines now, it's a loss with each one made, and the more we make, the more we lose." Sue snappily rolled his eyes at the person who said this. "If it really was like this, I would have already stopped working. Why would I keep doing things even if I knew that we were losing money, even increasing orders?" That's right. Right, Sir Chairman is much smarter than us. How could we do something as stupid as losing money? Ha, I said it, we were just thinking too much." Seeing the mood of the workers instantly become better, Sue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. These normal workers really were easy to trick. Of course, strictly speaking, he didn't lie to them. "Alright, everyone go back to work. The company's current changes are only for the long term. It doesn't mean that the company is closing. You can be assured, even if all the other companies in Banta City close, our new flyer won't. How about it? Are you confident?" The workers looked at each other before raising their arms and shouting, "We're confident." "Good, then you can all scatter." Sue waved his hand. The workers looked at each other before breaking out in laughter and scattering. After this small disturbance, Sue quickly walked into the CEO's office and slapped down on Kennard's desk. "Investigate who spread these rumors," Sue said in a deep voice. Kennard looked up at Sue and softly said, "Sir Chairman, I'm afraid this isn't a rumor. Could it be that you aren't doing all of this because you want to close the door?" Sue looked at Kennard with a serious expression. "I've said it before, moving the Academy of Magic and the Magic Machine Development Center is only for the long term. It isn't related to anything else. Our new flyer has worked hard to build a good foundation in Banta City. How could I give it up so easily?" Kennard shook his head. "Sir Chairman, you're not even willing to tell the truth to me?" "This is the truth," Sue said with a serious look. Sue said with a serious expression, "If someone wants to suck blood from us, then let them suck it. As long as they don't suck us to death, I'll let them keep sucking. I want to see who will be the first to give up in the end." Kennard looked at Sue in surprise with a look of disbelief. Was Sir Chairman declaring war? Chapter 520. Half of the hot summer had unknowingly passed, and it was about to enter September. 2 years ago, it should have been the busiest time for all the household magic machine companies and the small component companies in Banta City. This was because during this time, there were many household magic machines that were in high demand during the summer season. However, the situation in Banta City this year was different. Like leaves that could only lie on the branches after being roasted by the summer sun, the large group of household magic machine companies in Banta City were also weak. They couldn't work as hard as before, and there were even several companies that stopped producing household magic machines. As for the reason, it was very simple. Naturally, it was that they couldn't earn money. When the new city lord Kamadou announced the business tax reform and increased the tax on magic machines, although the magic machine companies in Banta City had suffered a large blow, they were still optimistic that they could earn money. At worst, their profit margin would drop a bit, and as long as they worked a bit longer, they would be able to earn back their losses. However, after several months, the ruthless facts told everyone that with the current business tax policy, it was almost impossible to earn money from producing magic machines. They might even suffer a loss. So after several months of struggle, some companies that didn't have high profit margins could only helplessly stop production to avoid increasing their losses. With the first company, there was a second. In just 2 short months of summer, there were over 10 companies that stopped producing magic machines in Banta City. At the same time, there were even more companies that were only a few steps away from stopping production. Among all the companies, the only exception was the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The other companies all reduced their production, but the Frestec Chamber of Commerce didn't move out of Banta City like everyone had guessed, moving to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's base in the Stantine Duchy. Rather, they added several production lines to the workshops in the Falling Rain Valley, taking in all the workers that had been laid off because of the other company's production reductions and working at full force. Because of the new production lines and the skilled workers from the other companies, New Flyer's production of the most popular household magic machines like the Magic Fan, the Magic Air Conditioner, the Magic Refrigerator, the Magic Freezer, and the other household magic machines had greatly increased. And because there was less competition from the other companies in Banta City, New Flyer's sales of household magic machines had greatly increased this summer. Just in terms of the Magic Air Conditioner, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had sold over 200,000 units in the first 2 months of summer. It was even more than double the sales of last summer. Adding in the other household magic machines, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's summer household magic machine sales compared to last year were at least double. The others were confused by New Flyer's actions at first, but they understood later. Perhaps the other companies' profits would fall because of the new business tax policy, and they would even suffer losses. But the Xinfei brand household magic machines had a very high profit margin. Even if it fell because of the new business tax policy, they could still earn quite a bit of profit. Like this, New Flyer was very suitable for making up for the losses from the new business tax policy with high sales volume. However, this was something that the other companies couldn't compare to. The Xinfei brand household magic machines could maintain a good profit margin in this situation because the price of the Xinfei brand household magic machines was much higher than the other brands. Although the Xinfei brand household magic machines had lost quite a bit of the market in the past 2 years, in this situation, the Xinfei brand household magic machines could still survive and compete. The reason why there were so many people buying the Xinfei brand household magic machines at such a high price, other than the Xinfei brand being much better than the other brands, it was also because New Flyer had been promoting the Xinfei brand for all these years. Because of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's constant advertising, everyone thought that the Frestec brand household magic machines were the highest grade household magic machines. Only by buying the Frestec brand household magic machines would they have the right to choose. Just based on this, the difference between the other brands of household magic machines and the Frestec brand household magic machines was even greater than the difference in quality and performance between the two products. So because of these two reasons, New Flyer could maintain a high production volume and high sales volume this summer, while the other companies could only sigh. The other fellows don't need to envy us. Heinz looked at the last month's financial report that Seabass had just given him and gave a deep sigh. Although our production volume and sales volume are double that of last year, calculating it, our profit last month was only 130,000 gold coins, which isn't even a third of last year's profit. This really is. Kennard on the side almost knit his brows together. He looked at the calm Sue-E in front of him, and his heart was filled with confusion. Sue-E had told him 2 months ago that he could let those fellows suck the blood of the new flyer as long as they didn't suck the new flyer to death, but he felt that this was a bit wrong. In these 2 months, he had personally seen the effects of Sue-Ye's decision, which made him even more confused. If it was said that Sue-E had already expected this situation and decided to expand the production scale of the new flyer, taking back most of the household magic machine market in the kingdom, Kennard couldn't help admiring Sue-Ye's foresight. But he had been with Sue-E for this long, so he knew that what Sue-E cared about the most wasn't how far the new flyer could develop, rather he cared about how far the magic machine industry could develop and how large it could develop to. Right now in Banta City, other than the new flyer, all the companies related to the magic machine industry were half dead from the new tax and City Lord Kamado's policies. This was not something that Sue-E wanted to see. Could it be that Sir Chairman has changed? He's no longer fighting for his ideals and has become a person who only cares about his own benefits? Kennard guessed in his heart. Although he was very clear in his heart that this kind of choice was what a qualified merchant should make, it was because of Sue-E, who couldn't be considered a qualified merchant, that he was filled with charm that moved people's hearts. Even he who was considered an arrogant person by everyone was willing to become Sue-Ye's subordinate, working hard for him for just 2 years. Kennard was looking at Sue-E while guessing what Sue-E was thinking. Sue-E looked over everyone's faces in the room, and seeing everyone knit their brows, he revealed a smile. All right, I think that everyone should understand the predicament our company is facing, right? Everyone looked at each other before nodding with sighs. The Household Magic Machine Department's manager Ankado said with a bitter smile, Sir Chairman, to be honest, I never thought that there would be a time when our household magic machine department wouldn't earn 100,000 gold coins a month. This really makes me feel that I'm too useless. That isn't related to you. The director of the steel mill on the side, the dwarf Nera, gave a snort. If it wasn't for that idiot city lord coming up with this damn business tax policy, how could our company only earn this bit of money a month? Damn it. The 2 steel mills under me actually suffered a loss last month. This is simply a shame. Ankado looked at him with a look of sympathy. There's no other way. Many companies have stopped production, so naturally their demand has decreased. Adding in the fact that City Lord Kamadu has a high proportion of dwarven workers in the steel mill, he wants to collect a safety tax. It's already good that you didn't lose that much. Safety my ass. Neru said angrily. Neru angrily said, so what if there are many dwarven workers in the factory? Why isn't it safe? This is all because of that damn Kamado's discrimination against us dwarves. I will report him to the Other Race Management Department. Wake up, Neru. The Other Race Management Department rarely gives out work permits, so they don't care about anything. I think that there will be a rule sooner or later that other races won't be allowed to work for human companies anymore. The Night Song Tribe's plastic processing factory manager Amalud said with a sigh. Your steel mill is only being forced to collect a safety tax, but our plastic processing factory is already being forced to close or be handed over to the humans. Right, speaking of this matter, what are you planning to do in the end? Are you really closing the factory? Neru asked in a curious voice. No, we're planning to move to the Principality of Constantine. Other than us, the fertilizer factory opened by the Moon Shadow Tribe is also planning to move there with us. Anyway, the Moon Shadow Tribe's hometown is in the Principality of Constantine. Amalud replied. Neru knit his brows as he turned to Sue-E. Sir Chairman, I say, are those human officials all idiots? After chasing us away, what benefits do they get? Sui gave a shrug. You should ask them about this. Well, since everyone understands the current predicament of the company, then I'll announce something that I think everyone won't be surprised by. Hearing this, everyone in the conference room couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Nehru immediately asked, Sir Chairman, are you going to announce that our company has officially stopped production? How could that be? Sui shook his head. What I want to announce is, I have submitted an application to the kingdom's noble council to officially resign from my viscount status. Ah! The conference room was immediately filled with exclamations. Chapter 521. The so-called nobles were, of course, only relative to the commoners. On Earth, the obvious class division had long been eliminated, but in Signs, which was still a semi-feudal and semi-slave society, there was still an extremely clear and obvious class division. At the very top were the nobles. Slaves had no human rights and could even be killed at will. Compared to the commoners, the nobles not only enjoyed respect on the surface, but also enjoyed a higher status. To be more specific, they enjoyed many privileges. For example, the nobles could be an official, the nobles could be exempted from part of the business tax, the nobles could own private carriages, the nobles could not kneel in front of His Majesty the King, the nobles could, in short, there were a lot of privileges that only the nobles could enjoy. There was a clear division between the nobles and the commoners, making it so that the nobles were naturally a level higher than the commoners. In terms of status, they could completely look down on the commoners. Although the nobles had a stricter class division, compared to the commoners, it was a completely different world. Therefore, no matter who it was, once they obtained the status of nobles, they would do everything possible to raise their status as nobles. At the very least, they would try their best to keep their status as nobles. Only then would they be able to keep their privileges as nobles. In the history of Signs, there had always been nobles who violated certain taboos and were forcibly stripped of their status as nobles. There had never been a single noble who would voluntarily give up their status as nobles. It was probably only in those fantasy romance novels that young girls loved to read that the male protagonists of nobles would be willing to give up their status as nobles and go against the wishes of their families to be together with the commoner girl that they fell in love with. In reality, if a noble did this, even the young girls who loved to read such novels would definitely scold that noble for being an idiot. Even if it was the dream of a noble, it was still the dream of almost every commoner girl. But if the noble lost his status as a noble, what was the point of this dream? Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for a noble to voluntarily give up his status as a noble because it meant that he would be giving up on the privileges and benefits that came with being a noble. Unless this person was an idiot. But was Sui an idiot? As the New Flyer's chairman, he had single-handedly created the New Flyer and developed the New Flyer into a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom in less than 4 years. Moreover, he had single-handedly created and perfected the magic machine industry, affecting the entire Banta city. He had turned the small and remote Banta city into the economic center of the kingdom. For a person with this kind of ability, who would dare call him an idiot? However, Sui did something that everyone thought was very stupid. He actually took the initiative to propose to the kingdom's noble parliament, voluntarily giving up his noble status. This news came from the Banta Times, and was confirmed by the Lampuri Weekly, causing everyone to be stunned. No one would think that Sui was an idiot, but no one could understand why he would voluntarily give up his identity as a noble. So why? Why would he do that? I've said it a long time ago, I don't care about this noble status at all. It's fine if I give it up, it isn't that big of a deal. Sui replied with a faint smile. Seveni looked at Sui for a while as her eyes filled with doubt. I know that you don't care about your noble status, but Sui, you have to admit that this noble status has brought many benefits to you and the New Flyer, right? At least because of your status as a viscount, you can have such a large piece of land, allowing you to place most of the new flyers' factories in your territory. This has saved a large amount of money for the new flyer. Could it be that you didn't tell me this before? It is indeed like this. Sui gave a slight nod before changing the topic. But 70, have you ever thought about it? My noble status, this territory, and the benefits it brings to the company, where did it all come from? Is there a need to ask? Of course it's because of you. 70 suddenly stopped. She suddenly thought that the reason why Sui could become a rare noble from a commoner after the Lampari kingdom was all because of Lampuri XIII's recognition of him. After that, Sui went from Baron to Viscount, even giving him a piece of land that surpassed normal standards, while also allowing him to keep his merchant status. This was all because of Lampuri XIII's recognition of him. When Lampuri XIII was still alive, of course there wasn't a problem. However, the problem was that Lampuri XIII was no longer here. But you don't need to give up, right? After thinking about it, 70 was still confused. 70 was still a bit confused. Not mentioning anything else, you've lost your noble status and the Falling Rain Valley can't be considered your private territory. You won't be able to enjoy the benefits of a private territory and your new flyer will be directly managed by Banta City, which will be a very big problem. Seeing the worried look on 70's face, Sui revealed a smile. Alright, in order to not make you worry, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, this is an agreement I made with His Majesty Eric through City Lord Kamadou. It can be considered a deal. Deal? 70 slightly knit her brows. 70 knit her brows, but I don't see what benefits you or new flyer will gain from this deal. If it's benefits, if I say that our company has real free trade rights, what would you think? Real free trade rights? Specifically? 70 asked in a confused voice. To be specific, it's that our new flyer can freely trade with other countries and we don't need to report to the kingdom's parliament or the business department. When our company trades with other countries in the future, it will be much more convenient. 70 tightly knit her brows. Isn't this supporting your smuggling? Sui immediately glared at her. Hey, Your Highness, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak whatever you want. Although we don't need to report to the business department every time, our company still needs to report to the business department every once in a while. Moreover, there isn't a single gold coin less in tariffs, so how can this be considered smuggling? 70 rolled her eyes at Sui. I don't believe that you'll be honest after spending so much effort to obtain this condition. Sui laughed. I think that His Majesty Eric wouldn't believe it either, but he still agreed to my condition. Why do you think that is? Of course it's because the conditions you gave him were too good. 70 gave a deep sigh. 70 gave a deep sigh. Sui, I don't know what you're thinking about, but I have to warn you. If you lose your noble status, you'll lose the best method to protect you and new flyer in the kingdom. I'm saying if Big Brother Eric wants to do something to you or new flyer, it will be much easier compared to before. Sui gave a shrug. You think that he would really have scruples with his noble status? Don't forget, when His Majesty was still here, the royal parliament took away my noble status. If they were to do it again, I think that they wouldn't have any psychological barriers. 70 was silent for a bit before asking. The deal between you isn't that simple. I think. Whether it is you or Eric, you won't be willing, right? Sui nodded with a faint smile, of course. If it was just for our new flyer to obtain free trade rights, this deal wouldn't have any meaning to me at all. So other than giving up my status as a noble and returning my territory to the royal parliament, allowing the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to enter Banta City's management system, I have also reached other agreements with His Majesty Eric. 70 looked at Sui and after thinking for a bit, she asked, based on your words, this part of the agreement should be related to Banta City's magic machine industry? Yes. My request to King Eric was to cancel the special tax on magic machines and treat the magic machine companies the same as the other companies of the kingdom. At the same time, I requested the royal parliament to continue promoting the development of the magic machine industry. It would be best if they could maintain the preferential policies they gave Banta City before. He agreed? 70 was a bit surprised. Why wouldn't he agree? Sue-E revealed a smile. I have already conveyed the message clearly through Lord Camadou. The kingdom needs money, this is understandable, but squeezing the magic machine industry like this isn't a long-term plan. As long as the magic machine industry continues to develop, the kingdom can obtain the greatest benefits from this. King Eric isn't an idiot. How could he not understand this simple logic? It isn't that he doesn't understand, he just can't do it. 70 gave a sigh. The people behind him are forcing him too much. Sue-E, for them to agree to this condition, you must have paid a very large price, right? Just taking new flyer into Banta City's management is far from enough. Of course it's not enough. Sue-E nodded with a smile. Those greedy fellows only care about benefits, so I'll give them the greatest benefits. I have already reached an agreement with His Majesty Eric, so we will be cooperating with the kingdom's magic machine industry management department. We will be transferring our Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic machine technology to the 10 companies that the management department has designated. 70 looked at Sue-E in shock. Are you crazy? Chapter 522. Sue-E already couldn't remember how many people had asked him if he was crazy. Since he announced at the New Flyers high-level meeting that he was giving up his noble status, almost everyone who knew him would ask him this question after seeing him. Even those who weren't familiar with him and only knew him, although they wouldn't ask him directly, it could be seen from their expressions that they thought this in their hearts. When he decided to accept City Lord Camadou's countless suggestions and cooperate with the kingdom's magic machine industry management department, transferring the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic machine technology, not to mention 70 reprimanding him for being crazy, even the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's subordinates, who had always admired him and obediently followed his orders, all looked at him with doubtful gazes. Sir Chairman, wouldn't really be crazy, right? Otherwise, with Sir Chairman's wisdom, how could he not see the serious consequences of agreeing to the magic machine industry management department's suggestion? It wasn't exaggerated to say that although the department only wanted the Frestec Chamber of Commerce to transfer a part of their technology to the 10 companies, it could be imagined that the department would have more and more requests for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, even forcing them to do so. At that time, Sue-E, who had lost his noble status and the too powerful backing of Lampuri XIII and Her Highness 70, how could he resist King Eric and the nobles of the Lampari kingdom behind him? To put it bluntly, Sue-E agreeing to this condition was no different from giving new flyer to those greedy nobles. This was something that everyone could see, so it was impossible for Sue-E to not see it. So why did he do this? Among the people who knew Sue-E, other than a few people who didn't understand and weren't willing to question Sue-E, like Steel and great magician Camilla, as well as some people who blindly followed Sue-E, like Agnes and Vivian, the only one who understood and supported Sue-E wasn't a human. Actually, your choice is very wise. I don't understand why your subordinates have such a big opinion. Elder Elucia had a confused look on her face that was as beautiful as a young girl's. Since your new flyer's biggest pillar in the Lampari kingdom has disappeared, of course you can't develop as easily as before. Choosing to leave and find another path, isn't this a very normal thing? Sue-E gave a shrug and said with a faint smile, "There is an old saying in my hometown, it's called the onlooker sees the situation clearly and the person involved is confused. Elder Elucia is an elf, so it's easier for you to see some things in our human society. Rather, it's the subordinates of our company who are mostly related to the company, so of course they can't see the true meaning behind my choice. Perhaps it's like this. Elder Elucia gave a soft nod before looking at Sui with a bit of curiosity. You said that your subordinates are confused because they are involved, then what about you? If we're talking about the benefits of the new flyer, no one can compare to you, right? How can you see it so clearly and make such a simple decision? No matter what, you can't be considered an outsider, right? Sui revealed a smile. He wasn't just an outsider to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, he was even an outsider to the entire world. This was a natural psychological advantage of being a transmigrator, but there was no way to explain it. It's probably because my goal is much bigger than everyone thinks. Sui gave a vague explanation with a smile, looked around and continued, let's not talk about this meaningless topic, let's talk about the business I came for this time. Elder Elucia, City Lord Camadou, on behalf of the Kingdom's Parliament, the Business Department, and the Magic Machine Industry Management Department proposed the conditions, including the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory. Their request is that the plastic processing technology your Nightsong Tribe has must also be shared. What do you think about this request? Impossible. Elder Elucia's reply was calm, but unusually firm. These technologies are unique to our Nightsong Tribe, we can't give it to them so easily. Sui revealed a smile, looking as if he wasn't surprised. Good, according to City Lord Camadou's message from the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, since the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory isn't willing to share the technology, then the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory will be considered as not part of our new flyer. According to the Kingdom's Parliament's regulations, the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory will no longer be recognized by the Kingdom's Business Department because it doesn't have any human merchants. It must be dismantled within a certain time limit. What about the Moon Shadow Tribe's fertilizer processing factory? Elder Elucia asked. It will be dealt with the same way. The greedy among you humans are still as greedy as ever. Elder Elucia's smile had a hint of mockery. No wonder Chairman Su informed us in advance to prepare for the relocation, so you already expected the reaction of those humans. I'm just preparing for a rainy day, Sui said. In short, our new flyer can't even protect ourselves, so of course you have to prepare in advance. Yes, the preparation work isn't hard. But Elder Elucia slightly frowned. Chairman Su, are you sure you want us to go to the Black Rice Wasteland to build another factory? That's the Beastman's territory after all, so it might not be convenient. In my opinion, it's better to build the factory in the falling rainforest. The humans won't be able to come here and harass us for now. But it won't be easy for you to go out, right? Sui asked back. Elder Elucia, I think you should understand the importance of transportation for industrial development. Although it's safe in the falling rainforest, the transportation is too inconvenient. It will hinder the transportation of goods and raw materials, which is very bad for the factory's development. Elder Elucia thought for a bit and nodded. That's right. We chose to settle in the falling rainforest because it's very inconvenient for humans to come and go. We won't be easily harassed by humans here. But now it seems that it's a disadvantage. Other than the transportation problem, there is another important factor, which is that the plastic processing factory needs to be developed. You wouldn't be satisfied with just a single plastic processing factory, right? In the falling rainforest, because of the terrain restrictions, the development prospects will be limited. This is a very realistic problem. I have to admit that in this aspect, you have more experience than me and can think further. Elder Elucia considered it before saying with a nod, All right, I'll have Amelud pick a suitable place in the Black Rice Wasteland to build the plastic processing factory. But if we move to the Black Rice Wasteland and transport the plastic products to Banta City, because of the distance, wouldn't the transport cost be much higher? That's simple, just add the cost to the price, Sui said with a smile. Elder Elucia looked at Sui in surprise. Chairman Su, your new flyer's magic machines use quite a bit of plastic. It doesn't matter. Su-yi gave a shrug. You just need to treat everyone the same. As for the pressure from the increase in the price of plastic products. Anyway, it's not only our new flyer that will feel it. Elder Elucia doubtfully looked at Su-yi, who seemed like he was taking joy in other people's misfortune, not understanding why he was always this relaxed. After deciding on the matter of moving the Night Song Tribe's plastic processing factory, Su-yi made another request to Elder Elucia. Because Su-yi had given up his status as a noble, the Falling Rain Valley that was Su-yi's private territory was taken back by the royal parliament. Then the Falling Rain Valley guards that were formed by the elves and dwarves in name would disappear. There were 200 dwarven warriors and 150 elven warriors in this guard team, but now that the name of the guard team had disappeared, those 2 dwarven warriors had chosen to join the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guard team. As for the 150 elven warriors, they still had the pride of the elves and didn't make the same choice. Su-yi's request to Elder Elucia naturally wasn't for the 150 elven warriors to join the new flyer guard team. Instead, he wanted them to become the guards of the new flyer base in the Black Rice Wasteland. In name, because the Night Song Tribe's plastic processing factory was about to move to that base, the 150 elven warriors could be considered the guards of the Night Song Tribe's plastic processing factory. As for the job of protecting the entire base, it could be considered a side job. After hearing Su-yi's explanation, Elder Elucia suddenly burst into laughter. Su-yi was stunned. Elder Elucia, what's so funny about this? I racked my brains to come up with this plan for the pride of the elven warriors. Do you accept or not? Elder Elucia revealed a smile like a flower and looked at Su-yi as she said, Actually, Chairman Su, you don't need to spend this much effort. I think, even if you want them to become your personal guards, they wouldn't refuse. How is that possible? Su-yi had a look of disbelief. I tried my best to have them join our company's guards before, but they never agreed. Agnes also said to me that this is impossible because it goes against the principles of the elves. Since they aren't even willing to join the company's guards, how could they become my personal guards? Because there is a difference between you and the new flyer. Elder Elucia said with a faint smile. The new flyer is a human company, so naturally it won't be recognized by us elves. Joining the new flyer's guards will be seen as working for the humans, so this goes against the principles of us elves. Then wouldn't becoming my personal guards go against this principle even more? I am a human. Su-yi said in a surprised voice. This is not the same. Elder Elucia shook her head. Although you are a human, because of the problem with our tribe's water source, you have already obtained the approval of our entire tribe. Our Night Song tribe will not treat you as a normal human, but rather as a member of our tribe. Becoming your personal guard is not something that is hard to accept for the warriors of the tribe. Su-yi blinked. It's that simple. It's that simple. Elder Elucia nodded with a smile. Chairman Su, I think you haven't asked Fario if they were willing to become your personal guards, right? Indeed I haven't. Su-yi shook his head. I always thought they wouldn't accept, so I never thought of asking. That's good, you can ask now. I think Fario and the others will be very happy. Receiving Elder Elucia's encouragement, Su-yi was filled with excitement. Chapter 523. Sir Chairman, for such an obvious fact, do you still need to ask the elder? Agnes looked up at Su-yi with a confused look. If they didn't approve of you, the clansmen wouldn't have come to work in the new flyer. For example, if I didn't truly accept you, how could I stay by your side? You are not the same as them. Su-yi shook his head. You are the first elf I came in contact with. The reason why you stayed by my side was because I took you from Elder Elucia and you stayed by my side for such a long time. If even you don't approve of me, then I'll have to reflect on my own character. Agnes giggled. No need to reflect on yourself. Sir Chairman, although your heart isn't as pure as Big Sister Steele or Vivian's, you are still very outstanding among humans. Anyway, I like staying by your side. If you chase me away, I won't be happy. Sui couldn't help scratching her nose. Could it be you want to stay by my side forever? Sooner or later, you'll have to marry like the other elves, and then you'll have your own life. Agnes' eyes turned and she suddenly clapped her hands as she excitedly said, "That's right, speaking of this, I suddenly thought of something. Sir Chairman, didn't you tell me last time that elves and humans can't marry? But I asked the elder and she told me that there is no possibility of elves and humans marrying. On the contrary, before the race wars, there were many elves marrying with humans and giving birth to children, the legendary half-elves. And then?" Sui rolled his eyes at her. "These half-elves won't be accepted by the elves, right?" It seems like it, but this is something from several thousand years ago and is different from now. Sir Chairman, what you said before was wrong, we can marry. Moreover, I'm certain that the remaining half-elven children will be accepted by the elves. So you don't need to worry." "What if I'm not worried?" Sui reprimanded her. He curled his index finger to tap Agnes' forehead. "I say, why are you thinking about these things at such a young age? Don't you feel embarrassed?" "Embarrassed? Why would I be embarrassed?" Agnes rubbed her forehead with a look of confusion. "Opposite-sex marrying and reproduction are all very normal topics. You are a human male and I am a female elf. Discussing the possibility of marrying and reproduction, what is there to be embarrassed about? Moreover, Sir Chairman, I've said it many times, I'm already over 80 years old. I'm much older than you." Sui was defeated by the naive Agnes, and he couldn't help holding his forehead with a sigh. "All right, if you don't feel embarrassed, then I feel embarrassed. Anyway, don't discuss this topic so loudly in front of so many people, okay?" Sui's words to say, "you to me," Agnes's expressions, "s to me, ag to me to you to her to me, Agnes to me ts. All right, I also have many questions I want to ask the elder." Agnes happily clapped her hands and quickly agreed. Sui helplessly shook his head. He turned to Vivian and waved his hand at them. "Come, Vivian, bring Agnes over to Kennard's side and explain some of your design ideas to the officials sent by the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Today is the first time the department has come to our new flyer, so you have to properly receive them." When Vivian pulled away Agnes, who still looked a bit unsatisfied, there was a middle-aged man who looked very normal, but his clothes were decent. It could be seen that he came from a noble family with a single glance that he came to Sui's side. "The two of them are the two most outstanding designers of your new flyer? They really are young and promising." The middle-aged man looked at Vivian and Agnes' departing figures and softly said with a sigh, "It's nothing, they have just been in contact for a long time, so practice makes perfect." Sui calmly replied before turning to look at the middle-aged man. "Speaking of outstanding designers, I think those 10 companies must have the help of many outstanding masters of the kingdom, so they definitely won't be inferior to the two of them. Am I right, Director Russell?" The current director of the department, Dino Russell, revealed a faint smile and shook his head as he said, "Chairman Su, you should understand better than anyone that masters of art and designers are two different things. That beautiful elven young Miss Agnes is not only a designer, but also a master of art recognized by everyone in the kingdom. But among those masters of art, not a single one of them can be called a designer. That's simple. Let them participate in the design process, and after a long time, they will naturally become designers," Sui said. Director Russell looked at Sui and said with a faint smile, "Chairman Su, it seems like you are still dissatisfied with the technology transfer." Sui looked at him and slowly shook his head. "No, I'm not dissatisfied. It's just that I spent a lot of effort to develop these things, and suddenly having to give them to others, my heart is still a bit uncomfortable." Director Russell laughed. I understand Chairman Su's feelings, but for everything, we have to look forward, right? Although it seems like your new flyer has suffered a loss by handing over the technology. But first, let's not talk about the transfer fee that the 10 companies have to pay to receive the technology. Just based on the 10 companies participating in the magic machine industry, how much of a boost it will bring to the magic machine industry, I think Chairman Su should understand this, right? Su-yi gave a cold laugh in his heart. Technology transfer fee? When New Flyer sold the magic stove, the magic electric stove, the magic air conditioner, and the other household magic machine technology, any company that wanted to obtain this technology had to pay at least 100,000 gold coins. But what about the 10 companies that the department appointed? The highest transfer fee was only a trivial 30,000 gold coins. And this 30,000 gold coins even included a set of production magic machines. If they really calculated it, this technology was no different from New Flyer giving it to them for free. The so-called transfer fee was clearly just a fig leaf to Su-yi. It was just a proof that these fellows wanted to be whores, but they still wanted to show off their chastity. As for the promotion brought by the 10 companies participating in the magic machine industry, Su-yi didn't oppose it. These 10 companies had the shadows of the old nobles behind them. With this kind of solid backing and with the technology provided by New Flyer, these 10 companies would be able to enter the magic machine industry in a short period of time and speed up the development of the magic machine industry. The more important thing was that because of these 10 companies joining, the conservative nobles who opposed the magic machine industry before would no longer insist on this position and would instead support the development of the magic machine industry. For example, one of the conditions that Su-yi proposed to King Eric through City Lord Kamadu was to adjust the special business tax for magic machines. After Su-yi transferred a part of the technology, this condition quickly received a response. Just half a month ago, Banta City's business tax reform was abolished on the grounds that experiments proved that it wasn't suitable. Because of this, there were many magic machine companies that were on the verge of bankruptcy and some small component processing companies that were revived. It was like Banta City was instantly filled with vitality. But Su-yi wasn't too optimistic about their prospects. These 10 companies appointed by the department would enjoy all kinds of preferential policies in the future. If these companies without any foundation in Banta City wanted to compete with them, it was like throwing eggs at a rock. Even if it was the New Flyer, it would be hard for them to survive in this pincer attack. The reason why they hadn't swallowed the New Flyer was because they hadn't digested the technology of the New Flyer yet, so there was still value in keeping the New Flyer. Whenever he thought of this problem, Su-yi couldn't help giving a sigh in his heart. If business wanted to break free from the influence of politics, it really was too hard. It was a good thing that he had already thought of this and made preparations ahead of time. What he was doing now was nothing more than his dream of creating an industrial system. Leaving a spark of the magic machine industry for Banta City or the Lampari Kingdom was already all that he could do right now. As for whether this spark could continue to flourish like when the New Flyer led the development of the magic machine industry, that wasn't something that the current Su-yi could decide. After taking a deep look at Chief Russell, Su-yi said with a serious look, I believe that after those 10 companies join the magic machine industry, the magic machine industry in the Lampari Kingdom will definitely flourish. But I have something that I hope that Chief Russell can pass on to the people in charge of those 10 companies. Seeing how serious Su-yi was, Chief Russell's expression also became serious. Please speak. Chief Russell nodded. Transferring the technology that our company already has isn't something that is hard for me to accept. In fact, before this, our company has already transferred many magic machine-related technologies. I understand. Regarding Chairman Su's selfless actions, when I talked to many people in private, they all expressed their admiration. Chief Russell said with a nod. What I want to say is that it isn't a problem to directly take the developed technology from our new flyer. This is also the fastest and most convenient method. But have you ever thought of a problem? Once you take all the technology from our new flyer, what will you do next? Chief Russell said with an awkward smile. I understand Chairman Su's meaning. Chairman Su, you've always emphasized that the development of the magic machine industry can't be separated from research and development. I think that those 10 companies also understand this, so there's no need to worry. Then again, there's still the new flyer led by Chairman Su, right? Sui shook his head. No, you don't understand, and they also don't understand. Research and development is just a phrase, but in reality, it isn't as easy as you think. To put it bluntly, no matter if it's personnel, theoretical foundation, or the most basic workers, there isn't a single company that can compare to our new flyer. Chief Russell frowned. Then Chairman Su, do you have any good suggestions? Sui smiled faintly. I don't have any suggestions, only I wish you good luck. Seeing the fake smile on Sui's face, Chief Russell's expression couldn't help but change. Chapter 524. For the people of the Lampari Kingdom, year 3783 passed very quickly. But for the people of Banta City, it passed in the blink of an eye. At the beginning of the year, His Highness Eric had led the Northern Army to conquer the Sac Kingdom and had won several victories. Then His Majesty Lampuri XIII had died from a serious illness, so His Highness Eric had gone from a prince to a king. With His Highness Eric taking the throne, Her Highness Seveni was no longer Banta City's city lord. The new city lord didn't bring too many changes to Banta City at first, making the people of Banta City think that Banta City would smoothly develop like this. But facts proved that most people's thoughts were too simple. Entering summer, when the weather became hot, there were a series of dazzling changes in Banta City. First was the new flyer announcing that in order to respond to the call of the kingdom's magic machine industry management department and promote the development of the Lampari Kingdom's magic machine industry, they decided to transfer their magic machine technology to the companies designated by the department. This transfer was different from the new flyer's technology transfer from before. According to the report in the Banta Times, when transferring the technology to the 10 companies designated by the department, New Flyer only took a symbolic transfer fee. If they added in the manpower and resources that New Flyer had invested in transferring the technology, it was equal to giving it away for free. Even if the Banta Times didn't say it, as long as one had a brain, they could tell that this technology transfer wasn't normal. It was clear that New Flyer was being pressured by the department, or it could be said that they were being pressured by King Eric, so they were being forced to agree. And a week after the Banta Times published this report, the Banta Times editor-in-chief Naki announced that he was leaving the Banta Times, which seemed to confirm this guess. After the Frestek Chamber of Commerce announced the transfer of technology, in less than half a month, there were several large and small companies that appeared in Banta City overnight. Among these newly emerged chambers of commerce, there were 10 that were on the list announced by the Magic Machine Industry Administration Department. As for the remaining unknown small chambers of commerce, they naturally had some unclear relationship with these 10 chambers of commerce. The appearance of these companies didn't affect Banta City at first, but when the hot summer passed and the cold autumn wind blew into Banta City, the people of Banta City began to feel these companies, or rather the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's technology transfer, whether it was obvious or not, had brought about changes. ##### The president of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, Fuller Morgan, had been a little upset recently. It was almost the end of the year, which meant that the year-end statistics of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce were getting closer and closer. Before this, Chairman Morgan had never been troubled by this matter because the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's main business was the iron ore business. It had always been very stable and rarely fluctuated. As the chairman, He only needed to verify the data compiled by his subordinates, and he could easily complete this task. However, this year was different. In other words, things had changed since 3 years ago. 3 years ago, because of the creation of the new flyer, it had stimulated the magic machine industry in Banta City and even the entire Lampari kingdom. Because people's demand for magic machines kept increasing, naturally their demand for iron also kept increasing. With this large demand, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's iron ore sales kept increasing each year. Just last year's iron ore sales were equal to the total sales of the new flyer in the past 5 years. Because of the appearance of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's steel mill, various kinds of steel materials quickly replaced the normal cast iron that everyone used before. It led to a large part of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's iron ore being used by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to refine steel. Only the remaining part would be sold to others to make normal cast iron. Even if Su-Yi had reached an agreement with Duke Joel in private, as the demand kept increasing, the price of the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's iron ore kept increasing for new flyer. In just a single year, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's net profit from selling iron ore to the new flyer had reached 4 million gold coins. According to Chairman Morgan's estimates, with the expansion of the new flyer last year and the production of various factories across the kingdom, the new flyer's demand for iron ore would greatly increase. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's net profit from the new flyer this year would break 5 million gold coins. In the beginning, people couldn't compare to God's plans. Chairman Morgan never would have thought that Lampuri 13th would suddenly pass away this year and the situation in Banta City would suddenly change. Of the 10 companies chosen by the department, there was a Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce that had received some steel refining technology from the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. In just a short 2 months, they had built 5 steel mills with the help of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. Compared to the 2 steel mills of the new flyer, the 5 steel mills of the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce were much bigger and had a higher capacity. The amount of steel they smelted in a single month was 3 times what the new flyer could produce in a single month. To smelt this much steel, naturally there was a higher demand for pig iron. Properly speaking, with the increase in pig iron sales, Chairman Morgan as the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman should be happy, but he wasn't happy at all and was rather annoyed. The reason was very simple: the price the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce gave was too low. The price the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce sold to the new flyer had already been discounted because of the agreement between Su-Yi and Moonlight. It had just broken 10 gold coins a ton this year. But the price the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce offered to the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce had been cut in half, only 5 gold coins a ton. This price was even lower than the price the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce sold iron ore before the new flyer appeared. However, Chairman Morgan didn't have any choice. If the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce needed it, he had to sell it. As for the reason? Of course it was because behind the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce was the arrogant Stag family. There was even the shadow of King Eric. Even if it was Duke Joel, he couldn't compete with this power. Regarding this situation, Duke Joel had already given Chairman Morgan instructions a month ago. He had Chairman Morgan sell to the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce for 5 gold coins a ton. Because of this low price, Chairman Morgan was very clear that when the end-of-the-year statistics came out, the numbers would be very ugly. However, since Duke Joel couldn't do anything, naturally he couldn't do anything. The only thing he could do was curse Su-Yi in his heart. That idiot! Why did he have to give away the steel-making technology? Now it's good, the Rockefeller Chamber of Commerce's steel is 10 gold coins lower than your new flyer's price per ton. Let's see how your new flyer's steel mill will continue to operate. However, cursing was cursing. Thinking of Su-Yi, even Chairman Morgan, who didn't like Su-Yi at first, couldn't help feeling a bit emotional. Where did that fellow run off to? Could it be that he really wants to give up on the foundation he built in Banta City? The Fersen Carriage Company's Chairman Pompey was even more annoyed than Chairman Morgan. Chairman Morgan was only annoyed that the Falcao Chamber of Commerce's profits would drop compared to last year, but Chairman Pompey was annoyed that the Fersen Carriage Company would suffer a loss this year. Since they started working with the new flyer, focusing on public transport and long-distance transport, the Fersen Carriage Company's profits had been quickly increasing. Just last month, the Fersen Carriage Company's net profit was over 200,000 gold coins after taking out all their expenses. If this trend continued, the Fersen Carriage Company's profit this year would surpass last year's 2 million gold coins and even touch the 3 million gold coins mark. But all of this instantly turned into bubbles with an order from the City Lord Manor. The content of this order was very simple. To be specific, it was to strengthen the management of Banta City. The City Lord Manor would be managing the public transport system in Banta City. This order didn't seem like a problem at first glance, but when it came to implementation, there was one thing that made Chairman Pompey very angry. According to the rules of the City Lord Manor, since the public transport system was managed by the City Lord Manor, there had to be a standard. Of course there was no problem with this, but the problem was that the standard the City Lord Manor mentioned was that the Fersen Carriage Company's Banta City public transport system had to be changed. They had to change all the magic cars under the Fersen Carriage Company's name to the magic cars designated by the City Lord Manor. As for the magic cars designated by the City Lord Manor, of course they weren't the Shinfei brand. Of the 10 companies that the department chose to accept the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's technology, there was the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce that accepted the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic car production technology. With the help of the new flyer, the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce only used 2 months to build their first Lafayette brand medium passenger magic car. At first Chairman Pompey was a bit surprised. Since the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce accepted the magic car technology, why did they make the medium magic passenger car first and not the most profitable magic sedan? However, when this order from the City Lord's mansion appeared, he immediately understood. The Lafayette Chamber of Commerce had already colluded with the City Lord Manor. They were already prepared. However, knowing this was one thing, Chairman Pompey couldn't do anything about this. Faced with the orders of Banta City's City Lord Manor that represented King Eric's will, what could he use to resist? Looking at the investment report that he had made over the past few days on changing to the Lafayette brand magic cars, Chairman Pompey's forehead was covered in cold sweat. If they obeyed the orders of the City Lord Manor, the Fersen Carriage Company would have to invest at least 2 million gold coins to prepare. Moreover, according to the requirements of the City Lord Manor, the Fersen Carriage Company would have to pay 500,000 gold coins to the City Lord Manor each year for contracting the public transport system. Like this, not only would they suffer a loss this year, even if they wanted to take back their investment in the future, it would be impossible. After a while, Chairman Pompey suddenly slammed the report on the table and angrily roared out, "Damn! Since we can't do it, Father won't do it." Chapter 525. If the people of Banta City saw the current Sui, they definitely wouldn't connect him to the chairman of the new flyer. Compared to when he was in Banta City, the current Sui's skin was much darker. Or accurately speaking, it was a healthy bronze color. Sui, who was half naked and only wearing a pair of shorts, was like a child. He jumped off the rocks by the sea and dove into the sea. Putong. This part of the sea that Sui had specially chosen was very deep. After Sui dove in, it was like a stone falling into water, only making a muffled sound. After a while, he came out of the water and there was a white fish that was half the length of his arm in his hand. "Hey Steel, there's dinner for tonight." Sui slapped the surface of the water and raised the fish in his hand, as he proudly shouted to Steel on the shore. Steel raised her arm and covered her forehead with one hand, blocking the bright red light of the setting sun coming from the sea. She looked at the fish in Su Yi's hand and found that there were traces of lightning flowing around the fish, so she couldn't help laughing. Hey, you're using lightning magic to deal with a fish? Isn't that too wasteful? Su Yi laughed and suddenly flew out of the sea. With a splash of water, he flew across the sea and landed beside Steel. What is wasteful? As a powerful magician, don't you use good magic and catch it with your bare hands? Su Yi threw the fish into the bucket prepared by Steel and gave a soft snort with a look of disdain. I'm not one of those old antiques from Anvil City. I have to say that the primitive is the best. Humph, isn't it because humans learned how to use tools that they can become the masters of this world? Steel couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. All right, I just casually said something, and you came out with a bunch of words. It seems like you're not as unconcerned as you said. Su Yi sighed, sat down, and gently held Steel's waist, feeling the soft and smooth skin of her waist that was exposed because she was wearing a swimsuit. It would be a lie to say that I don't mind at all. But since I've already decided to let them go, there's nothing much to say. I'm just disappointed that those guys are still so stubborn. That's only a small number of people, isn't it? Still took a towel and helped Su Yi dry his hair that had been soaked by the sea as she spoke in a gentle voice. Most of the people in the kingdom have already accepted the novelty of magic machines. Also, hasn't King Eric started to promote the importance of the magic machine industry and claimed that he would develop it fully within the kingdom? Su Yi gave a strong snort. They just feel that the magic machine industry is more profitable. Who would really want to develop the magic machine industry? If they can't make money, they wouldn't be so enthusiastic, right? Steel smiled. No matter what, at the very least, those stubborn old nobles have all accepted the magic machine industry and even invested themselves in it. The old antiques are only a small number. Su Yi looked at the setting sun that was about to reach the sea. After a while, he sighed and shook his head. Forget it, let's not think about these disappointing things. I've already left the foundation for them, I've already done my best. I don't care if they can do it well or not. Yes, that's right. Steel smiled and nodded. She turned her head and pointed at the Xinfei farm in the distance. Look, isn't it good to start over here? Su Yi turned around and looked at the factories that had sprung up on the Xinfei farm. He thought that experience really was different from no experience. In the beginning, he felt that it was very hard to build a branch factory in Karma City. But now that he had moved the main body of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce here, it only took him 3 months to complete it, so the difference wasn't small. According to this speed, before the end of the year, the new flyer's new headquarters in the Principality of Constantine should be completed. At that time, the new flyer would be starting over in the Principality of Constantine. It wouldn't be like Banta City where it would be affected by all kinds of factors. But speaking of not being affected, Su Yi tilted his head and looked to the south of the Xinfei farm. He thought that if he really wanted to create an independent magic machine industrial kingdom that wouldn't be affected at all, there was an important problem that he had to solve first. Look, grandfather is back! Steel on the side suddenly shouted out, cutting off Su Yi's thoughts. Turning around, he saw that on the sea in the distance, there were over 10 black dots that were quickly heading over. A moment later, these dozen or so black dots turned into more than 10 small boats, drawing more than 10 water lines on the surface of the sea, breaking through the water surface as if they were flying closer. The one in front was of course Great Magician Camilla. Seeing Great Magician Camilla standing at the bow of the boat, facing the sea breeze with a heroic and proud appearance, Su Yi couldn't help turning to Steel and saying in an emotional voice, "I've found that. Grandfather really is becoming younger and younger. Isn't that a good thing?" Steel revealed a smile as she stood up to welcome the small boats that were approaching the shore. Su Yi shook his head and followed her to the pier. When they arrived at the shore, Great Magician Camilla was already driving the first small boat over. Seeing that he didn't slow down and was about to hit the pier, the small boat suddenly came to a stop. There was a wave that came right at Sue and Steel, who were waiting on the pier. Steel casually waved her hand and a light blue barrier appeared in front of her and Sue, blocking all the waves. When all the water fell, Steel snappily glared at Great Magician Camilla. "Grandfather, how many times are you going to use the same move before you're satisfied?" Great Magician Camilla laughed. "I was testing if the two of you were lazy and didn't practice magic. This was for your own good." Steel rolled her eyes and was too lazy to care about him. Sue looked at Great Magician Toluchi with a look of sympathy and said in a warm voice, "Your Excellency Great Magician, how do you feel?" Great Magician Toluchi took a deep breath before slowly letting it out. Only then did his expression look a bit better. He looked at Sue with a bitter smile and shook his head. "Not good at all." Then he turned to Great Magician Camilla and said with a serious look, "Camilla, I've known you for all these years and I've only learned today that you're a lunatic. I'm certain that I won't ride in any of the magic devices you drive in the future, whether it is the magic boat or the magic sedan." Great Magician Camilla curled his lips and said in a voice of disdain, "That's because your body is too weak. To be honest, Toluchi, you should train your body. Otherwise, you won't be able to live much longer. Look at those fellows who came from Karaska Island, why aren't they like you?" "Nonsense, they are all 20-year-old young men, how could I compare to them?" Great Magician Toluchi angrily said. Great Magician Camilla angrily said, "Then again, which one of them is driving a small magic speed boat like you, charging around like crazy?" Great Magician Camilla laughed. "That's because you didn't see it. Let me tell you, when these fellows normally compete with me, they are all crazier than me. Today, I'm sure it's because of you, a great magician who has finally returned to his hometown, that's why he restrained himself." Great Magician Toluchi turned to look at the 10 small magic speed boats that weren't far from the pier, and gave a snort. He was too lazy to argue with Great Magician Camilla. Seeing that the two of them finally stopped, Sue quickly cut in and asked Great Magician Toluchi, "Your Excellency Great Magician, you've returned to Karaska Island after several decades, do you feel that it has changed that much?" Hearing Sue ask about Karaska Island, the anger on Great Magician Toluchi's face from arguing with Great Magician Camilla disappeared. After thinking about it, he revealed a happy smile. "It has changed a lot. Compared to when I lived on the island when I was a child, the current Karaska Island was like a completely different place. Not only do the people of the island no longer need to worry about their livelihood, they have new clothes to wear, new houses to live in, and even the children on the island have toys to play with. After I came back to the island to take a look, I was very happy. Sue, agreeing to work with you back then was the wisest decision I've made in my life." "You're too kind." Sue revealed a faint smile. "Since I agreed to work with you to solve the problems of the people of Karaska Island and stop them from being forced to become pirates, then I have to do my best. I've only solved their basic living problems, it's far from enough for me." Great Magician Toluchi excitedly asked Sue, "Then what are you prepared to do next? Karaska Island is only this big, I feel it's hard to develop, right? Unless you bring them all ashore." I did have this suggestion, but many people on the island didn't agree. They weren't willing to leave Karaska Island after living there for so long. Moreover, I don't think there's a need to do this. Even if they stay on the island, there are still many opportunities to improve their lives. Really? Tell me, what are you planning to do? This. Sue laughed. Great Magician Toluchi, if I want to achieve this goal, I'll need your help. Great Magician Toluchi was a bit surprised before breaking out into a smile. He reached out to point at Sue. "I knew it, a brat like you wouldn't do a losing business. Alright, I've personally seen the changes you've brought to Karaska Island, so I believe you have a way to improve their lives. Since it's like this, according to our agreement, I've decided to join your new flyer and officially become a researcher of your Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 526. On the surface, the new flyer didn't seem to have changed at all, but those who were familiar with the new flyer knew that when His Highness Eric announced his ascension to the throne, the new flyer had already begun planning to move out of Banta City. Although the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's factories and facilities in the Falling Rain Valley didn't change at all and didn't move at all, in reality, the most important personnel and software had always been under Su Yi's control. They had been moved out of the Falling Rain Valley that was the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's previous headquarters bit by bit in an orderly manner. Perhaps others didn't understand the meaning behind Su Yi's actions because for most people, the new flyer was mainly the workshops and the various equipment in them. Only with these actual hardware could the new flyer be called a company, being able to produce large amounts of the new and popular Xinfei brand magic machines. Without these hardware, wouldn't the new flyer just be an empty shell? However, for Su Yi it was the exact opposite. The hardware of the company wasn't important to him at all. To him, the most important thing was always the people. The so-called people, to be specific, from him as the chairman to each worker of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, they were all things that were much more important than the machines and machines. Su Yi always believed that no matter what the new flyer became, as long as the people were still here, he could create a new flyer at any time. It was even shameless to say that as long as he was here, the new flyer would always be here. Of course, other than him, Su Yi also had a hierarchy in his mind. To him, the workers of the company were the foundation of the company, but they could be recruited and trained, so they weren't that important. Compared to this, the researchers of the Academy of Magic and the magic mechanical engineers of the Magic Machine Development Center were the people he cared about the most. Technology was the foundation of industry, and these researchers and engineers represented technology. With them, even if Su Yi had to transfer the important technology of the new flyer to the 10 companies according to the requirements of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, he wasn't worried at all. This was because the other companies might be able to take the technology from the new flyer, but without a strong enough research team, they would never be able to make any breakthroughs in technology. They would never be able to surpass the new flyer. The words that Su Yi said to the Magic Machine Industry Management Department's Chief Dino Russell before was actually this. Of course, not every researcher was willing to follow Su Yi's arrangements and leave Banta City and the Falling Rain Valley that they had lived in for a long time, running to the Principality of Constantine to start over. Su Yi didn't force this. After asking everyone's opinions, he simply split the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce into two, setting up a branch in the Falling Rain Valley and a branch in the Xinfei farm in the Principality of Constantine. According to Su Yi's arrangements, the Academy of Magic in the Falling Rain Valley would only conduct in-depth research on the new flyer's products today and wouldn't conduct research on new products. As for the Academy of Magic in the Principality of Constantine, they would focus on developing new magic machines and new technology. Although this separation made both sides happy, it would inevitably weaken the power of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. For example, Akali had 2 research teams under her, and now most of the people in those 2 teams wanted to stay in the Falling Rain Valley. So Akali, who came to the Principality of Constantine with Su Yi, only had less than 10 researchers under her, so she could barely manage the magic resonance technology that she cared about the most, but she couldn't care about anything else. So Su Yi was facing a very important problem. Perhaps this problem had always troubled the new flyer before, but in this situation, it was even more serious. This problem was that they didn't have enough researchers. Even if the new flyer was very famous in the Lampari Kingdom and the magic machine industry was accepted by most people in the kingdom, for most magicians, studying magic had nothing to do with the magic machine industry. The true value of a magician was still in the research of high-level magic. This was something that even the researchers who had worked in the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce for several years couldn't change, not to mention other magicians. In this situation, Great Magician Toluchi announcing that he would join the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce was without a doubt a powerful boost to the new flyer, making Sue-E very excited. When Great Magician Camilla chose to join the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, although it had created a stir in the Lampari Kingdom, to many people, it was completely because Sue-E was Steele's husband and Great Magician Camilla's granddaughter-in-law. It wasn't related to Great Magician Camilla's willingness to research the magic machine industry. Now that Great Magician Toluchi had also announced that the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce had a completely different meaning. Great Magician Toluchi didn't have a granddaughter to marry Sue-E, right? The most important thing was that a great magician joining the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce and two great magicians joining the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Although it was only a difference of one person, it was a completely different concept. One person was a special case, but were both special cases? It had to be known that in the entire Lampari Kingdom, there were only a total of 5 great magicians. Now that 2 of them had joined the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, it could be imagined how shocking this would be to the magicians of the Lampari Kingdom. Hearing that Great Magician Toluchi had agreed to join the Academy of Magic as a researcher, Sue-E was filled with excitement. He immediately racked his brains, thinking of how to spread this news in order to create the most sensational effect. But thinking of the fact that the new flyer was in a transition period, Sue-E and the new flyer needed to be low-key, this conflict was very hard to resolve. Seeing Sue-E frown after being happy for a while, Great Magician Toluchi couldn't help saying in a curious voice, "Hey, Sue-E, could it be that my decision to join the Academy of Magic has made it hard for you? Could it be that you suddenly find that you can't afford my salary?" Great Magician Toluchi was clearly in a very good mood after seeing the citizens of Karaska Island improve their lives. He actually made a rare joke with Sue-E. Sue-E quickly put away his thoughts and said with a laugh, "Your Excellency Great Magician is willing to join our company's Academy of Magic, that is something I wish for. Just speak your mind, as long as our company can afford it, I'll agree to any salary." Chairman Sue really is rich and overbearing. Alright, I won't ask for too much, I just want 1 gold coin more than Camilla's salary. Great Magician Toluchi said with a smile. Great Magician Camilla immediately glared at him. What? Are you deliberately looking for trouble? Great Magician Toluchi shook his head with a faint smile. No, I just feel that. I'm not Sue-Yi's relative, so how could I be polite to this brat? So, I have to be a bit more than you. Great Magician Camilla gave a cold snort. My salary is only 1 gold coin a year. If you're willing to only take 2 gold coins a year, that's up to you. Who are you trying to fool? Don't forget, when you just entered the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, the new flyer announced your salary of 10,000 gold coins a year. Do you think that I wouldn't notice such a shocking matter? That is just to fool outsiders. Anyway, I only take 1 gold coin a year, it's up to you to believe it or not. I don't believe it. Sue-E, what do you say? Seeing the 2 great magicians arguing with him, Sue-E waved his hand with a bitter smile. He persuaded the 2 of them to stop and then in front of Great Magician Camilla, he settled on his salary with Great Magician Toluchi. Since Great Magician Toluchi was a powerful great magician, once he entered the new flyer, he was directly given the title of Special Researcher. He received the same salary and treatment as Great Magician Camilla. As for his salary, it was temporarily set at 10,000 gold coins a year. As for the other benefits, for example, he would be given a free villa, free custom-made clothes, free medical care, and free travel with his family. and other benefits. Although Great Magician Toluchi was a bit better off than Great Magician Camilla, in a year, he could only earn around 5,000 gold coins. When he heard that Great Magician Camilla could earn 10,000 gold coins a year from the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, he didn't believe it. He felt that the new flyer was only a company. How could they give a magician such an exaggerated salary of 10,000 gold coins a year? Now that Sui had fulfilled his promise and improved the living conditions of the Karaska Island residents, he had chosen to join the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. However, he never thought that not only would the 10,000 gold coins a year be real, there would be so many other benefits that he would be dazzled by. There were many things that he had never heard of or even thought of before. With a rough calculation of these benefits, it would cost him at least 2,000 gold coins a year. This meant that if he worked for the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce for a year, he could earn 12,000 gold coins a year. After coming to this conclusion, the last bit of hesitation in Great Magician Toluchi's heart disappeared, and there was only one question left. Sui, you just said that you have a chance to improve the living conditions of the Karaska Island residents. What are your plans? Great Magician Toluchi asked with a serious expression. If you don't explain it clearly, even if I join the Research Institute, I'm afraid I'll have reservations when working. Sui couldn't help smiling. A great magician really was a great magician. He could actually say these words in front of him without any hesitation. The specific plan is a bit long. Sui wanted to invite Great Magician Toluchi to his manor on the cliff by the sea for a chat, but he suddenly heard a faint buzzing sound above his head. Looking up, Sui revealed a happy smile. Perfect, the information I needed the most is back. Your Excellency Great Magician, with the help of this detailed information, I can clearly explain my plan to you. I guarantee that you will be satisfied after hearing it. Chapter 527. Everyone looked up and found that there was a black shadow in the sky. There was a large shadow on the ground that covered the pier. Great Magician Toluchi looked over and asked in shock, "What is this thing?" Sui said with a faint smile, "We'll know when we take a look." After saying this, Sui made an inviting gesture to Great Magician Toluchi. He added a wind-controlling spell on himself and flew up the cliff. Great Magician Toluchi had a confused look as he also flew up. The weakest of them all, Steel, was a 6th-grade magician, so naturally he had the ability to fly. So the group flew up and after a while, they chased after the strange, black cloud in the sky, landing in the open space outside Sui's private manor. Steel, who was flying in the back, had just landed when the black cloud in the sky fell down. When it landed on the ground, everyone looked at it and found that this black cloud was an oval shape. It was around 30 meters long and less than 10 meters wide. It was olive-shaped and looked like a boat at first glance. This thing. Could it be a magic airship? Great Magician Toluchi curiously came over and circled around the magic airship with a look of praise on his face. Camilla mentioned to me before that your company is developing a magic airship that can carry people through the air. But when he mentioned it to me, he said that the magic airship you developed was only a few meters long and could only hold one person. Now this one. I think it can hold at least 10-20 people, right? The number of people was set at 18, but it hasn't reached 20 yet. Sui explained with a faint smile. That's still very incredible. Great Magician Toluchi couldn't help saying in surprise, 18 people, even if each person weighs 50 kilograms, that's close to a ton. To be able to fly through the sky while hitting something that weighs a ton and fly this fast, this is simply too shocking. Sui laughed. He thought that this magic airship could only carry less than a ton, and it was already enough to make Great Magician Toluchi this surprised. If he were to see the large cargo planes on Earth, wouldn't his jaw drop from shock? There was a soft sound that came from the magic airship. A door that could fit 2 people opened on the side and a collie charged out of it. "Sir Chairman, we're back." A collie waved her hand at Sue. She looked over the others and finally fell onto Steele. She rushed over to grab Steele's hand and shook it while excitedly shouting, "Steele, you should come with us and see the magic airship. This is too exciting. I never thought that I would be able to look down from such a high altitude and still be able to do it so steadily. It's simply incredible." Steele looked at her. "It's not like you haven't flown in the sky with flying magic before. Why are you so excited?" "That's not the same." A collie forcefully shook her head. "Although you can fly in the sky with flying magic, the highest you can fly is. You can't even reach 10 floors, around 20 meters, not even 30 meters. But if you ride this magic airship, you can only reach a few hundred meters in the sky. Let me tell you, looking down from a few dozen meters in the sky and looking down from a few hundred meters in the sky are 2 completely different things." "Is that so?" Steele was a bit confused. "Of course. Do you know? Looking down from a few hundred meters in the sky, the people on the ground are as small as ants, you can't even see their faces. When I look down from above, I suddenly feel like I've become great." Even if a collie's words were always exaggerated, this was the first time Steele had seen her this excited because of something, so he was also interested. "All right, the next time this magic airship takes off, I want to experience it as well. Sue, is that okay?" Sue shrugged. "You shouldn't ask me this, you should ask Evita. After all, she's the person in charge of the magic airship project. She's the expert in this area and has the most right to speak. If she agrees to let you go, then I have no objections." Evita had just walked out of the magic airship. Seeing Sue throw the question at her, she nodded with a smile. "No problem. After a few experiments, I've confirmed that the safety of this magic airship is guaranteed to a certain extent. Also, Steele is a magician. Even if there's a problem, there won't be any problems." Steele immediately looked at Sue. Sue nodded. "All right, since Evita agrees, then I won't object." Ignoring Steele and a collie talking about the experience of riding the magic airship, Sue walked to Evita's side and asked in a low voice, "Is it done?" Evita gave a slight nod. She reached into her chest and took out a thick piece of craft paper, handing it to Sue. Sue took it, but he didn't open it. He called out to Great Magician Tolucci, who was sizing up the magic airship, and led the group into the manor. Everyone entered the innermost room of the manor. Sue opened the piece of craft paper Evita had given him and placed it on the table in the center of the room. This piece of craft paper wasn't small when folded, but once it was spread out, it covered the entire table. It was over 2 meters long and a meter wide. There were a bunch of messy lines and markings on the paper. Great Magician Tolucci carefully looked at it under Sue's indication and was suddenly stunned. "This? It seems to be a map of the surrounding area?" "Right." Sue nodded with a smile before pointing at the craft paper. "Look, this is Karaska Island. When we rode the small magic speedboat over the sea, it felt quite far. Looking at the map, it doesn't seem that far. Evita, what scale did you use to draw this map?" "It should be around 1/500,000. 1:500,000. Let me see. This means that Karaska Island is less than 100 kilometers away from here." Sue thought about it before nodding. "That's right, it would take around 2 hours to get there with the small magic speedboat. It should be around this far." Great Magician Tolucci looked at the map before looking at Sue with a confused look. "Sue, where did you get this map? Moreover, why did you make such a detailed map? Other than the surrounding area, it also includes the entire Principality of Constantine, even the Black Rice Wasteland to the north and the Sac Kingdom's coastline to the north. This is too strange. How did I get it? I had Evita use the magic airship to draw it from the sky. Otherwise, what kind of map would be this detailed? Moreover, the size, is this standard? Sui asked back with a natural look. It is indeed very detailed. As for the size, it is indeed very good. At least in this area, it's exactly the same as what I saw in the sky. Great Magician Camilla, who had been studying the map on the side, also nodded in agreement. Sui laughed. Perhaps it's even more accurate than when you saw it from the sky. Because you couldn't fly that high in the sky and you wouldn't stay in the sky for that long, right? That's right. Great Magician Camilla didn't deny it. Great Magician Camilla didn't deny it. If you fly high, naturally you can see further. This magic airship can fly up to several hundred meters in the air. Even I, a great magician, can only fly up to about 100 meters. That's far from it. When he heard Akali describe the height of the magic airship, Great Magician Toluchi was a bit doubtful. Now that he heard Great Magician Camilla confirm it, Great Magician Toluchi was even more surprised. This was just a magic machine, and it could actually fly higher than a great magician. This was a bit too shocking. The most important thing was that this magic airship wasn't slow at all. Adding in the fact that it could even bring people who didn't know magic into the sky, this was much more useful than magicians. Great Magician Toluchi, look, this is Karaska Island. Have you noticed that Karaska Island's location is very important? Suyi's question pulled Great Magician Toluchi back from his surprise. How is it important? Great Magician Toluchi looked at the map for a while, but he couldn't see anything. He was born and raised on Karaska Island, but he never felt that this island's location was important. Look here. Sui reached out his right index finger and first pointed at Karaska Island on the map before pointing at the coastline a few times. Look, first, Karaska Island is less than 100 kilometers away from our current location. Second, look here. Karaska Island is even closer to the Black Rice Wasteland, it's less than 100 kilometers. Wait! Great Magician Toluchi raised his hand to cut off Suyi's words. It's fine if you say that Karaska Island is closer, but why did you mention the Black Rice Wasteland? Is there any meaning? Sui revealed a faint smile. He pointed at the coast of the Black Rice Wasteland that was closest to Karaska Island and said, "If we set up a harbor here, do you think there's any meaning to it?" Great Magician Toluchi looked at where Sui was pointing and his eyes lit up before dimming again. That isn't realistic. If there really was such a port, it would be very important to Karaska Island. But behind this place is the Black Rice Wasteland, and it's close to the depths of the Black Rice Wasteland where the most savage beastmen tribes live. It is impossible to set up a port here. That isn't impossible, Sui said with a faint smile. Actually, I've already been working on solving this problem. As long as everything goes smoothly, we'll be able to take care of the beastmen tribes that are the biggest hindrance, and we'll be able to set up this port. Great Magician Toluchi knit his brows. There's no need to make such a big fuss, right? Those beastmen tribes are very strong and they're deep in the Black Rice Wasteland. It's too hard to take care of them. If it's just for Karaska Islands, even I don't think it's worth it. It's better to think of another method. No, Sir Great Magician. I'm not just doing this to improve the living conditions of the residents of Karaska Island. Of course, this is also a very important reason. But in my opinion, the most important reason for me to do this is because Karaska Island has a strong strategic significance. Strategic significance? Great Magician Toluchi looked at Sui in surprise. All the comments he heard about Karaska Island, the place where he was born and raised, were negative. This was the first time he heard someone mention the strategic significance of Karaska Island. This Sui. Was he serious? Chapter 528. Great Magician Toluchi was satisfied as he left the Principality of Constantine. Although he had decided to join the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce as one of the 5 great magicians of the Lampari Kingdom, his every action would be watched by everyone, so it was impossible for him to do as he pleased. Joining the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce would affect many things, so he had to return to the Lampari Kingdom to take care of these matters before he could officially join the New Flyer. Moreover, after considering many things, Sui didn't plan on having him move to the Principality of Constantine like Great Magician Camilla. He wanted him to stay in the Lampari Kingdom and work for the New Flyer. Sui even suggested to Great Magician Toluchi to set up an independent research institute for him. He could stay in Anvilmar City and wouldn't even need to move. But this suggestion was rejected by Great Magician Toluchi. Because Great Magician Toluchi thought that since he had decided to join the New Flyer, he couldn't just do it on the surface. He should really work for the New Flyer and make contributions. So after both sides discussed this, Great Magician Toluchi finally decided to enter the Academy of Magic branch in the Falling Rain Valley outside Banta City, mainly leading the research there. And because Great Magician Toluchi paid special attention to developing Karaska Island, his initial plan was to develop the magic boats after joining the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. After hearing from Sui that the magic boats could carry over 10,000 tons, Great Magician Toluchi's enthusiasm for the magic boats instantly surpassed Great Magician Camilla, who was very interested in the magic boat. As for the development plan around Karaska Island that Sui gave, Great Magician Toluchi deeply approved of it and was even more determined to join the New Flyer. Not long after Great Magician Toluchi left, another guest came to Sui's private manor on the cliff. It was Anklo, who he hadn't seen in a long time. When he saw Anklo in the living room, Sui found that compared to last time, Anklo had changed greatly. This change wasn't just his skin becoming a bit darker and a bit rougher. At the same time, his face was much thinner and his body was much more muscular. This change in appearance, it was a clear change in his aura. The previous Anklo looked sharp and people could see the shrewdness in his eyes, knowing that he definitely wasn't a simple person. At that time, Anklo was full of ambition and motivation. He was full of vigor and spirit. But the current Anklo he couldn't see a trace of his aura. At first glance, it was almost impossible for people to notice his existence. There was no longer any trace of his previous sharpness. But after Sui sized him up, he found that Anklo's aura had become much more profound than before. Perhaps it could be said that he had become much more shrewd, making it impossible for people to look down on him. What surprised Sui even more was that when he approached Anklo, he could smell a faint smell of blood coming from him. It made one's heart filled with a sense of danger. But the surprise only lasted for a moment in Sui's heart before it turned into relief. Anyone who had experienced such a drastic change in environment in the past year would probably experience the same drastic change as Anklo. Thinking of this, Sui revealed a smile and handed over a glass of wine that Liz had prepared. "How is it? I haven't seen you in a year, how have you been?" Anklo took the glass of wine and smiled. The solemn expression on his face faded a lot. "It's been good. At least everything is under control." "Is that so? That's good." Sui nodded and took a sip of the wine. He did not speak, and Anklo did not speak either. The two of them began to drown their sorrows in wine. After finishing the glass of wine, seeing that Sui didn't move at all, Anklo finally couldn't help asking, "Chairman Su, I think you should know why I'm here this time." Sui put down the wine cup and looked at him before giving a slight nod. "You're here for weapons and equipment, right?" "Yes. It's not a problem to keep providing you with weapons and equipment, but Anklo..." Sui paused before knitting his brows and continuing, "The weapons and equipment you bought from our company last time, you're still missing 360,000 gold coins. If I continue to provide you with more, I won't be able to answer to the others in the Chamber of Commerce." Anklo had expected Sui to bring this up, so he wasn't surprised. He nodded and said, "Yes, I understand. But Chairman Su, this is your investment in me, isn't it? And judging from the results, your investment this time should be very fruitful. At the very least, the fact that you can sit here leisurely and drink with me is proof. Yes, I admit. Sui nodded. But I can do this even without your help. The results might even be better. Also, the Chamber of Commerce and I have encountered a lot of trouble here. Can you tell me what benefits I can get from continuing to invest in you? Of course. Anklo puffed out his chest and said confidently, because I'm different from the other lords in the duchy. As long as I become the ruler of the duchy, I will do my best to cooperate with the new flyer. I will make the magic machine industry the most important industry in the Principality of Constantine. Other than me, no one else will do this. Even the king of the Lampari kingdom won't do it. Sui couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard Anklo mention the king of the Lampari kingdom. Alright, I admit that you make a lot of sense. But Anklo, you're just a small viscount. The territory you rule isn't even as big as our Shinfei farm. How can I believe that you can become the ruler of the duchy? As long as you continue to support me and provide me with enough weapons and equipment, I can guarantee that this will be the case. Anklo sneered. Those lords in the duchy only have fat for brains. Their armies are at best a flock of sheep. How could they possibly stop my footsteps? I agree with that. You've fought with more than a dozen lords this year and won every single one of them. You're really strong. Sui nodded and praised. So, as long as you continue to support me, there's no need to guess at the result. Sui was silent for a bit before nodding. Alright, to be honest, I've already made my decision when I met you. I can continue to support you, but Anklo, I can't keep investing without seeing any returns at all. You should understand this. Anklo revealed a smile and took out a thick stack of papers for Sui. Sui took it to look and found that it was a transfer contract for 2 iron mines and 4 magic crystal mines. The bottom was signed by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. 6 mines? That's quite a large amount. Sui flicked the contract in his hand. He looked at Anklo and said with a faint smile, but if I'm not wrong, these 6 mines aren't under your control yet. How can you transfer them to our company? They aren't under my control right now, but that doesn't mean they won't be in the future. Anklo revealed a faint smile. As long as Chairman Su agrees to my request, I promise that in half a year, these 6 contracts will take effect. Oh? Is that so? Sui carefully looked over the 6 contracts before slowly nodding. Alright, deal. Anklo immediately broke out in laughter. Good, I knew that Chairman Su was a smart person. You really are straightforward. According to the old rules, I'll send someone to receive the goods tomorrow. Other than that, Chairman Su, I've heard that your company has developed several new military magic machines? Sui shook his head and calmly said, I can't tell you that. Anklo looked at Sui for a while before revealing another smile. Alright, then let's do this for now. If Chairman Su is willing to talk to me in the future, I will be very happy to listen. Anklo stood up after saying this and gave Sui a bow before leaving. Sui didn't have any intention of keeping him, but when he came to the door, he suddenly said, Anklo, I've heard that. In the south of the duchy, there are many people calling you a traitor? Anklo paused for a while before turning around. His face was as calm as water as he said with a cold snort, It's just some wild dogs barking, it's not worth paying attention to. Oh? Is that so? Anklo was silent for a bit before suddenly giving a sigh and saying in a low voice, Perhaps there are many people calling me names, but how many people in this country really treat it as a country? The Principality of Constantine? Did this duchy really exist? Seeing the bitter expression on Anklo's face, thinking of the depression that Anklo had shown in front of him before, Sui gave a sigh in his heart, but he couldn't think of anything to comfort him with. Alright, let's just treat it as me being a traitor. But instead of letting most of the people in this country be bullied by those parasites, it's better to overthrow everything and change to a new method. As long as we can let the people of this country live a real life, what's a few curses? Watching Anklo's figure gradually disappear into the night outside the manor, Sui shook his head and gave a sigh. There were many people like Anklo on Earth, and most of them were known as revolutionaries. In terms of signs, in the history of signs that Sui knew, he was the first one. There were good and bad outcomes for revolutionaries on Earth, but what about Anklo's outcome? Sui wasn't optimistic about this. Chapter 529. Entering the golden autumn season, it was time for the bicycle race that Banta City held each year. Old man Sarkozy had left home early, riding the Frestek brand Mail's 28-year-old bicycle that he had bought over a year ago. He left Mexelen village and rode onto the falling rain road. There were quite a few people who got up early like him and left Mexelen village on their bicycles. After leaving the village, they naturally gathered by old man Sarkozy's side and headed to the starting point of the bicycle race, Banta City that was over 40 kilometers away. After leaving Mexelen village far behind them, Sam, who had been following old man Sarkozy, finally couldn't help saying, "Hey, Dad, are you really planning on riding this broken 28 bicycle to participate in the bicycle race?" Old man Sarkozy turned to look at this younger generation that was a bit related to him and gave a cold snort. "What? You can't?" "You can. But with this bicycle, you can't ride fast at all, so how can you participate in the race?" Sam said with knit brows. Old man Sarkozy said with a smile, "Hey, I'm not like you youngsters, participating to win. I'm just exercising. I don't care if I win or not. As long as I can finish the race, it's already good enough." "Oh, it's fine if you say it like this." Sam nodded, "but if you want to exercise, you don't need to ride this damn heavy 28 bicycle. Look at how light the one I'm riding is. It's very easy to ride, and it doesn't use any effort at all." As if to prove his words, Sam stepped off and charged out, moving far away from old man Sarkozy. Old man Sarkozy couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. After catching up to Sam, who had slowed down, he seriously looked at the bicycle under his butt and found that Sam's bicycle didn't have the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's logo. Of course, this bicycle is the newest product of the Angel Chamber of Commerce. The Angel Chamber of Commerce is a company that specializes in bicycles, and the bicycle I'm riding was specially developed for the bicycle race. It uses a new type of light alloy material and is over 10 kilograms lighter than the Xinfei brand bicycles. Moreover, it has been optimized, so it's much easier to ride than the Xinfei brand bicycles, so naturally it's much faster. Sam proudly pointed behind him. "Look, there are quite a few people in the village who bought the Angel bicycles. They're all here to participate in the bicycle race." Old man Sarkozy looked back, and in the crowd behind him, there were over 10 youths who came from Mexelen village raising their hands. Looking at them, he found that the bicycles they were riding on had the same logo as the bicycle under Sam. It seemed like they all came from the Angel Chamber of Commerce. Old man Sarkozy couldn't help knitting his brows. Could it be that the Angel Chamber of Commerce's bicycles are better than the Frestek brand? I don't think so. Sam chuckled. "Dad, you're already behind the times. Although New Flyer is still the best magic machine company, not all the magic machines they produce are the best. Look, this bicycle is the most obvious example." Seeing how relaxed Sam was riding the bicycle, old man Sarkozy wanted to refute him, but he couldn't find any words to refute him. Only thinking that New Flyer's magic machines would be surpassed by other companies one day, old man Sarkozy felt it was a bit unbelievable. In these years, the people of Banta City had been deeply influenced by New Flyer. Everyone was already used to the existence of New Flyer and New Flyer's absolute lead in magic machines. In everyone's mind, only the magic machines produced by New Flyer were the best. The magic machines produced by the other companies were naturally a grade lower than the Xinfei brand magic machines. Although the bicycle couldn't be considered a true magic machine, it was the first one developed by New Flyer. Now that it had been surpassed by other companies, it was very hard for Old Man Sarkozy to accept. What is hard to accept? A young man like Sam was very disdainful of Old Man Sarkozy's ideas. Sam's face was filled with disdain. New Flyer is indeed strong, but the world will change. It is normal for it to be surpassed by other companies. Then again, even Chairman Su has said that he hopes and welcomes other companies to produce magic machines that can surpass New Flyer. So what can't you accept? That's right, New Flyer hasn't made any moves in several months. If it was up to me, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce might close after a while. Another young man also spoke up. It's not to the point of closing, but the new companies are all very strong. Moreover, with the technology of New Flyer, I think that they will surpass New Flyer sooner or later. This isn't bad. Although New Flyer's things are good, they are also expensive. If other companies can produce magic machines that surpass them, I think that Xinfei's magic machines will also drop in price, right? That's right, isn't this what Chairman Su said himself? He hoped that there would be more qualified competitors? Then again, in this situation, isn't Chairman Su transferring the technology and training these competitors himself? If it was up to me, he was just reaping what he sowed. That's right. Chairman Su really is stupid. Why did he do this? If he didn't transfer the technology, wouldn't New Flyer still be able to earn large amounts of money? He did it willingly, right? I've heard that this time it was His Majesty. Shut up. Old Man Sarkozy suddenly angrily roared out, cutting off the discussion of the surrounding young people. Sam and the others were stunned. Seeing Old Man Sarkozy's dark expression, they all tactfully fell silent. What do you know? Old Man Sarkozy kept reprimanding them. Old Man Sarkozy continued to reprimand Sarkozy. How can you guess the thoughts of those important people? Whether Chairman Su did it willingly or not, I will definitely support New Flyer. Think about it for me, if it wasn't for New Flyer, would you have a good job? Would you have a good life? You actually dare say that New Flyer isn't good. You even dare say that Chairman Su is stupid? Let me tell you, don't let me hear this again, otherwise I'll beat you to death for your father. Old Man Sarkozy was very dignified in Mexilin village, and now that he had opened a long-distance transport company with Baltro, earning large amounts of money, he had become the idol of the young people in the village, so naturally he had a deterrent effect on them. Now that he was reprimanding them, the young people could only agree, not daring to have any thoughts of fighting back. But they were still a bit unconvinced in their hearts. Sam muttered, "It's not wrong to thank New Flyer, but a good thing is a good thing, you can't have us not buy it, right?" Old Man Sarkozy coldly looked at the angeled bicycle under Sam's butt and said with a cold snort, "Don't forget, this angeled bicycle was made with the technology stolen from New Flyer. What are you so proud of?" Sam curled his lips. He couldn't refute it and didn't dare refute it, so he could only obediently close his mouth. The group of people rode their bicycles, but they were quite fast. In less than 2 hours, they arrived at the west gate of Banta City. There was less than an hour before the official start of the bicycle race, but the square outside the city gate was already filled with people. Naturally, everyone was either riding or pushing a bicycle. Old Man Sarkozy looked over and found that among the bicycles used by the people participating in the race, there were quite a few bicycles made by the Angel Chamber of Commerce. There were even bicycles of unknown brands mixed in, but it wasn't like a few years ago where they were all Xinfei brand bicycles. Sam saw Old Man Sarkozy looking around and he couldn't help laughing. Old Man Sarkozy glared at him, but he didn't have the strength to say anything else. The group of people waited in the square for a while before several people came out from behind the stage set up in the square. It was New Flyer's Vice Chairman Hines and New Flyer's Bicycle Department Manager Broof. There was a young man with them who Sarkozy had some impression of, but he couldn't remember his name. After Hines got on the stage, he announced a series of rules and precautions for the road bicycle race as usual. Then, he gave his seat to Broof. According to the process of the bicycle race in the past, New Flyer's bicycle department manager Broof would appear every time and give a short speech. He would say the importance of bicycles on the road, as well as the convenience brought by bicycles, which could be considered advertising bicycles. However, what everyone didn't expect was that after Broof came onto the stage, he didn't say anything. Rather, he announced that New Flyer's bicycle department would be using this bicycle race as an opportunity to release a new bicycle product. Everyone was stunned as they watched the young man with Heinz and Broof come onto the stage. After a while, he actually released a new bicycle. This is our Chamber of Commerce's latest multi-speed road bicycle. Not only is this bicycle light and easy to ride, it is also equipped with a new type of hard tire that is specially made for the road. This allows the user to travel on the road with the least amount of obstruction, allowing the user to easily reach the maximum speed. Other than that, this bicycle is also equipped with a new transmission. Broof gestured to the young man beside him, and that young man raised the bicycle high up. Seeing how easily he raised the bicycle, everyone understood that this bicycle was indeed very light. Everyone look, this transmission is located at the rear wheel of the bicycle and the controller is located above the handlebars. Through adjusting the controller, you can adjust the transmission. By changing the ratio of gears, you can change the force applied to the rear wheel of the bicycle and thus adjust the speed. As for how to use it, it will depend on how you adapt to it during the actual ride. Seeing that the audience was in a daze, Broof smiled and announced another piece of news. In order to show the performance of this new multi-speed bicycle, we will specially send out a contestant, which is him, Alex, to participate in this bicycle race with everyone. Of course, his results won't be counted in the race, so you don't need to worry about him taking first place. But we will add a reward. As long as you are able to reach the finish line before Alex, you will receive an additional 100 gold coins from our cycling department. The crowd was instantly stirred. As long as they could reach the finish line before this fellow, they would receive an extra 100 gold coins. This wasn't a small enticement for anyone. Sarkozy turned to look at the youths of his village and found that they were all eager to give it a try. They all looked very excited, as if they were filled with energy. Hey, you really think you can surpass this, Alex? Naive. Old man Sarkozy gave a cold laugh in his heart. Chapter 530. Sam's face darkened as he pushed the bike past the finish line. Sam spat on the ground and cursed in a low voice as he looked at Alex, who was receiving everyone's congratulations with a smile on his face. He wasn't cursing Alex, who crossed the finish line first, but the angeled bike next to him. If it wasn't for this damn bike, he might have had the chance to be the first to cross the finish line. Not only would he have won the championship, but he would also have gotten the extra 100 gold coins. But everything was ruined by this damned bicycle. If it wasn't for this damn bike's chain constantly falling off, causing him to have to stop and reattach the chain, he wouldn't have wasted so much time and passed the finish line so late. It had to be known, at this time last year, when Sam participated in the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's bicycle race, although he didn't take first place, he had taken less than 3 hours to finish the 60-kilometer race. He had entered the top 10, which was quite a bit of limelight. Thinking about the difference between last year and this year, Sam was even angrier. He couldn't help but kick the back wheel of the bike. But with his kick, the back wheel of the bike actually made a few clanking sounds. It was a few screws that fell off. Then, the back wheel of the bike actually fell off the frame and fell to the ground. Sam stared at the back wheel on the ground in shock. His face was full of disbelief. Are you kidding me? He bought this bike less than a week ago. He only rode it a few days ago to prepare for the race. Until today, he probably didn't even use it for more than 500 kilometers. How could it be broken like this? Haha, there's someone worse than us here. Suddenly, there was a burst of mocking laughter behind him. Sam angrily turned around. But when he turned around, he was stunned. Behind him, there were a lot of young people around his age, who were just like him. They were all pushing a bike to cross the finish line. Sam glanced around and found that the bicycles these people were pushing were all Angel brands. Hey, your bikes are also broken? Sam didn't have time to be angry. He couldn't help but ask in surprise. The group of people looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Yeah, I only ran halfway and the pedals fell off. I couldn't accelerate at all. You're lucky that the pedals fell off. Look at me, the handlebars were twisted by me. I can't even control the direction. Come on, at least your bike is still intact. Look at mine. I walked a bit and the parts fell off. Although it's not to the extent that the back wheel fell off like this guy, it won't be long before it falls apart. Sigh, me too. I have too many problems. I practically walked all the way here. Me too. Me too. After everyone complained, a young man suddenly gave a sigh into the sky. I should have listened to my mom and bought it from the Frestec brand. This bullshit Angel bike is of the same quality as shit. Yeah, I bought the Shinfei brand bike 2 years ago. I rode it to and from work almost every day and ran at least 20 kilometers a day. But after so long, other than it being a bit dirty and a bit worn out, it's no different from new. Not to mention, it looks like it's about to fall apart. Yeah, my Shinfei brand bike is the same. It's been on all kinds of rotten roads, but it's very sturdy and rarely has problems. Me too. Why didn't New Flyer release their multi-speed road bike earlier? If they released it earlier, I wouldn't have bought this damn Angel bike. I wasted 10 gold coins for nothing. Yeah, if New Flyer released their bike earlier, I wouldn't have bought anything from other companies either. Yeah, hearing everyone reminisce about the quality and durability of the Shinfei brand bike, Sam couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. He had mocked old man Sarkozy for falling behind, only recognizing the New Flyer and not knowing how to accept new things. Now that he had learned his lesson, Sam found that old man Sarkozy's views were the most correct. Hey everyone, we can't just let this go, right? Someone suddenly said. What do you mean? Look, the oldest one of us bought the Angel bike less than half a month ago, right? But now these bikes have become like this. Such a big problem has occurred in such a short period of time, shouldn't we ask the Angel Chamber of Commerce to compensate us? Hearing compensation, everyone became excited, but there was one person who was a bit worried. The Angel Chamber of Commerce seems to have a strong backing. How can we make them compensate us? Humph, no matter how strong their backing is, could it be that they can sell us inferior products? They dare not compensate us? Then we'll cause trouble. We'll make this matter big and see who will buy their company's things in the future. Right. Let's do this. Alright, we should do this, ###. While the group of youngsters were discussing how to seek compensation from the Angel Merchant Guild for their losses, the chairman of the Angel Merchant Guild, Veril Angel, stood in front of Heinz with an ashen face and asked Heinz to compensate him. Vice Chairman Heinz, why didn't your New Flyer tell me before releasing the new bicycle? Do you know how big of an impact it will have on our company's bicycle sales when you suddenly release this new bicycle product? How will you compensate us for the losses caused by this? Heinz slightly knit his brows. He raised his hand to wipe away the spit that Chairman Angel had sprayed on his face and calmly said, Our company's new product doesn't seem to need to be notified ahead of time, right? Chairman Angel flew into a rage. Of course it's necessary. Did you forget? When Chairman Su signed the technology transfer agreement with us, it clearly stated that your New Flyer would share all the research and development with us. Now not only have you secretly developed a new product, you haven't shared any related technology with us. Are you planning on breaking the agreement? Heinz shook his head. This isn't a new product that we secretly developed. This is the same technology as the road bicycle you released before. Nonsense. Chairman Angelt angrily rebuked. Forget about the other aspects, but what about the transmission? Hines blinked and shook his head without changing his expression. I'm sorry, but that transmission wasn't developed by our company. The technology isn't in our company's hands. We can't share it even if we wanted to. Impossible, Chairman Angelt resolutely said. How could this not be developed by your new flyer? Apart from your new flyer, how could any other company have this kind of research and development ability? Hines pretended to be surprised as he looked at Chairman Angelt. Chairman Angelt, I remember very clearly. Back then Chairman Sue warned you that the most important thing in the magic machine industry was research and development. You were very confident that since our new flyer had the ability to develop new technology and products, then your Angel Chamber of Commerce wouldn't have a problem either. Chairman Angelt's expression froze. After a moment of silence, he awkwardly waved his hand and said, Let's not care about this. Since your new flyer already has this transmission, then we should share it according to our previous agreement. I just said that this isn't our company's technology. I can't just casually give it to you. This has a patent protection law. Seeing Hines's firm tone, Chairman Angelt rolled his eyes and changed his words. All right then, tell me which company developed this technology. I'll ask them to transfer the technology. Hines lightly shook his head. Sorry, the other party requested confidentiality, so I can't tell you. Chairman Angelt was furious. Vice Chairman Hines, what do you mean? I want you to share this technology, but you said that this technology doesn't belong to your new flyer. That's fine, but now I'm asking you which company developed this technology, and you're not willing to tell me? Are you not planning on continuing to cooperate with us? Hines's face sunk as he said with a cold snort, Chairman Angelt, I must seriously remind you that it is you who wants to cooperate with our Frestec Chamber of Commerce. It isn't our Frestec Chamber of Commerce taking the initiative to cooperate with you. You're saying that we don't plan on continuing to cooperate? All right, then let's end this cooperation. I have no objections. Chairman Angelt didn't think that Hines, who was always smiling and kind, would suddenly become so unyielding and overbearing. Really not cooperating? It wasn't just President Angelt who didn't dare to say such a thing. Most likely, none of the presidents of the 10 merchant guilds dared to say such a thing. If his talks with Hines really fell apart, causing New Flyer to end their cooperation with the 10 companies, then the big shots behind him would definitely make him die without a complete corpse. Thinking of this, Chairman Angelt suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He wiped his forehead and quickly put on an apologetic smile. Vice Chairman Hines, I was just casually saying it, don't take it too seriously. Since that company requested confidentiality, then it's right that you didn't tell me. After all, this concerns the reputation of your new flyer. I was too rude, sorry. Hines snorted heavily. It's too late. After saying this, Hines took out a document and handed it to Chairman Angelt. This is the document that the chairman has already signed. It will take effect from now on. I'm representing the chairman to formally inform you that the technology sharing relationship between our two companies will end here. The agreement we signed before is now null and void. Chairman Angelt stared at Hines in a daze, not daring to believe his ears. New Flyer actually unilaterally tore apart the agreement they signed before? They must be crazy. Chapter 531. Don't look at me like that, I know what you're thinking. Seveny looked at the smiling Sue and couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. Relax, I didn't come looking for you this time to ask why you stopped cooperating with the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Anyway, this isn't the first time you've done something that no one can understand, so I'm already used to it. Really? Sue was a bit surprised. Since you're not here for this matter, then, dear Highness, why did you come all the way to the Principality of Constantine to see me? Other than official matters, can't I find you for personal matters? Seveni snappily said. Personal matters? Sui was even more confused. What personal matters do you have to find me for? It's because of the matters of my territory, so it can be considered a personal matter. Seveni replied. Didn't we agree last time that you would help me build a small industrial base on my territory? Because I was Banta City's city lord before, it wasn't convenient for me to do this. Now that I've been city lord for half a year, there shouldn't be any problems, so I'm here to ask you when you're planning on doing this? It's very simple. Sui nodded and said with a relaxed look, our company is already very familiar with building industrial bases. Your territory isn't big and you don't have many citizens, so you don't need many facilities, so I think it'll be very easy to build one. But Seveni, it's best if you choose a focus for this industrial base. Have you thought about it? I've already considered it very clearly. My territory doesn't have rich resources, so it definitely can't be used for processing minerals. Moreover, there aren't many citizens, so it's also impossible to use a large amount of manpower to make mechanical parts. So after thinking about it, I've decided that it's better to do this. Take a look. Seveni took out a plan and Sui looked it over before he couldn't help being surprised. I say, Your Highness, are you trying to steal business from me? So in this plan, Seveni was planning to turn her territory into a large fruit base. Then she would build a large canned fruit factory and a fresh fruit juice factory in her territory. Currently, only New Flyer was involved in these two businesses. The other companies felt that these two businesses didn't have high profit margins, so they weren't interested. Now that Seveni suddenly decided to join these two industries, it was naturally equal to stealing business from New Flyer. How can this be considered stealing? Seveni had a sly smile on her face. Don't forget, you often told me in the past that I shouldn't let a large group of people share the same cake. Instead, I should work hard to make this cake bigger and better so that everyone who shares the cake can eat their fill. I'm not here to snatch the cake from you. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. All right, then tell me how to make this cake bigger? Right now the Lampari kingdom is limited by the average standard of living, so the demand for canned fruit and fresh fruit juice hasn't increased by much. A rich city like Banta City has already reached its saturation point. We've desperately tried to expand the market, but there's nothing we can do. If the Lampari kingdom is saturated, then look outside the Lampari kingdom. Don't you often do this? Seveni asked back. Don't look at me like this. I know that you want to say that your New Flyer isn't qualified to sell these products to other countries, but I'm different. I'm the princess, so I have this bit of privilege. Sui couldn't help muttering, damn privilege. Seeing Sui's unconvinced expression, Seveni couldn't help smiling before giving a sigh. Who told you to give up your noble status? Moreover, you've unilaterally broken the contract and stopped cooperating with the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Your New Flyer should have had many privileges, but your decision this time has angered many important people in the kingdom. Even if it was me, I can't plead for you. I knew that you couldn't let go of this topic in the end. Sui shook his head and said with a sigh, All right, since you can't help mentioning it, then I'll explain it to you. The reason why I chose to cooperate with the Magic Machine Industry Management Department was because 1. I was forced by the situation and 2. I already had the idea of transferring technology to promote the development of the kingdom's magic machine industry. I think that Seveni should be clear on this point. I'm very clear on your wish. Seveni said with a look of regret. It's a pity that Big Brother Eric and many people in the kingdom don't understand your thoughts. Actually, even if they didn't force you, you would have released this technology sooner or later. Now that it's no different from stealing, I'm very dissatisfied, and have protested to Big Brother Eric many times. Many thanks for your care and help. Sui nodded with a faint smile. But these 2 points aren't the main reason. The main reason why I agreed to the cooperation was because our new flyer wasn't prepared yet. Not prepared? Seveni slightly knit her brows as she looked at Sui in surprise. That means you're already prepared now? That's why you stopped this cooperation? Sui, do you really understand the seriousness of this? Do you know that because of your decision, there are many nobles behind those 10 companies that have suffered large losses? There are many people with power in the kingdom that have decided to be even more forceful against your Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Forceful? Sui laughed. Do you think that they were very gentle before? Although they said they were cooperating, how is that different from stealing? Seveni fell silent, and after a while, she said with a sigh, No matter what, Sui, you were too impulsive this time. I don't know what you've prepared, but this time you've offended most of the people with power in the kingdom. Your company will have a hard time in the kingdom in the future, and it's even possible that you won't be able to operate anymore. Is that so? Sui didn't look nervous at all. He spread his hands and gave a shrug as he said in a relaxed voice, It's fine if we can't do it anymore. If they feel that doing this is good for themselves and the Lampari kingdom, I have no objections. Seveni deeply knit her brows. Sui, what are you thinking? Didn't you create new flyer with your own hands and cherish it the most? Could it be that you're willing to give it up this easily? No, Seveni, I think that you're mistaken about something. Sui shook his finger. I don't want to give up new flyer. Rather, I want to give up new flyer in the Lampari kingdom. Do you understand the difference between this? Seveni's expression became a bit ugly. You're really planning on giving up the Lampari kingdom? No. You can't do this. Sui, don't forget, Banta City's current prosperity is all because of you and new flyer. You're giving up on the Lampari kingdom, which is equal to giving up on all the citizens of Banta City. You're exaggerating too much. New Flyer is just a normal company, and I'm just a normal merchant. I can't take on such a large responsibility. Moreover, speaking of giving up. Sui gave a cold laugh. Your Highness, compared to you giving up, what I'm doing isn't considered much, right? Seveni trembled. Her excited expression instantly calmed down and her face became a bit ashen. After a while, Seveni gave a long sigh. Sui, you finally said what's in your heart. You're still not willing that I gave up on the throne, right? You still have resentment towards me, right? Sui slowly shook his head. This isn't accurate. After all, I had imagined many times that once you ascended to the throne, with your strong support for the magic machine industry, my dream would be realized as soon as possible. However, you gave up on the throne, so how could I be willing? But speaking of resentment, it's not that bad. Really? Really? Sui gave a serious nod. I've said it before, no matter what decision it is, it's your decision and I don't have the right to interfere. If you really want resentment, there are many people in the kingdom who are more qualified than me. But at this time, I have a question I can't help asking you. Seveni, do you really not regret the decision you made back then? A pained look appeared on Seveni's face. She struggled for a bit before shaking her head and saying with a sigh, I don't know. You really don't know? Sui asked back. Your Highness, I'm afraid you're just not willing to face reality, right? The current Banta City has changed compared to when you were the city lord. I don't believe that you don't know. Think about it, if our new flyer couldn't survive in Banta City, what would Banta City be like? The pained look on Seveni's face became deeper as she struggled to refute. I think. No matter what, it's better than having internal strife. Sui gave a sigh and shook his head, not wanting to keep discussing this matter. He was in a different position from Seveni after all. To him, if the Lampari kingdom wanted to become strong, it had to change. The most likely thing to bring about this change was for 70 to take the throne and promote the development of the magic machine industry to improve the kingdom's environment. But to 70, she felt that not having internal strife and maintaining the stability of the kingdom was the most important thing. She couldn't say that she was wrong, but at least from the looks of it, after Eric ascended to the throne, the entire kingdom had fallen into the hands of the stubborn conservative nobles who supported his ascension to the throne. The so-called support for the development of the magic machine industry was just a way for them to gather wealth through the 10 companies. It was impossible for 70 to not see this, but she couldn't be as decisive as Sui expected. Of course, if she really had this kind of personality, she wouldn't have given up on the throne back then. Comparing 70 with Anklo, who he had met a few days ago, Sui couldn't help sighing in his heart. If he could balance out the personalities of these two, it really would be perfect. Of course, this was impossible. Sui could only think about it in his mind before giving up this fantasy. He looked at the sky outside and stood up from his chair. "All right, let's not talk about these meaningless things. 70, it's about time, let's go out together. For this joint operation, you are the commander in name." Chapter 532. While New Flyer was building a production base on the Shinfei farm in the Principality of Constantine, to the north of the farm, less than 20 kilometers away from the Principality of Constantine and the Black Rice Wasteland, they chose a place to set up a base for New Flyer's guards. The place where Sui and 70 were talking was in this base. When the two of them walked out, they saw that there were 2 groups of people gathered in the middle of the field. On the left were the New Flyer's guards, and on the right were the 500 guards that 70 brought this time. Based on this, Anklo and Sui both felt that the Principality of Constantine can't be considered a country, were very accurate. Otherwise, with 70's status as the Lampari Kingdom's princess, it was impossible for her to bring 500 guards into a country with complete sovereignty. But in this place, Sui had just notified the local territory's Count Wine, and he had easily let 70 bring her guards into the Principality of Constantine. The 2 groups of people on the field were separated into 2 groups, and one could see the difference with a single glance. 70's 500 guards were all wearing the same uniform and had the same Lampari Kingdom's royal family emblem on them. The most important thing was that they were all humans, so when they stood side by side, they looked very neat. Looking at them, one could see that they were a complete battle formation. But the New Flyer's guards were a bit chaotic. The most obvious thing was that the New Flyer's guards were very complicated. There were also 500 people, but only 100 of them were human guards. Of the other 400, there were 150 elves, 200 dwarves, and the remaining 50 were beastmen guards that had been recruited not long ago. Moreover, because each race had different habits, these guards didn't have the same weapons and armor. The elven warriors were used to wearing light soft armor, the dwarven warriors liked heavy armor that was as heavy as possible, and the beastmen warriors didn't even like wearing armor. If it wasn't for Sui forcing them to wear special magic protection armor, they would have only worn cloth clothes to battle. Those 100 human warriors were wearing the same standard armor, and all of them were equipped with magic protection. However, the weapons they chose were all kinds of strange, and there were all kinds of strange weapons. Sui had asked the human Captain Hart about this before, wondering if this messy choice of weapons would affect their battle strength. But Hart had told him that it wasn't a problem. Generally speaking, it was only necessary for a large number of people in the army, and there was no need for a small group of guards. In terms of battle strength, for a team like the New Flyer's guards, because of the strong battle strength of the elves, dwarves, and beastmen, there might far surpass that of human soldiers of the same scale. Not to mention that the New Flyer's guards were all equipped with special military magic machines. Just the battle strength of a single human guard was far from what a normal human soldier could compare to. Seeing the equipment of the new Flyers guards, even 70 couldn't help being shocked. Sue, when you said that you wanted to change the equipment of my 5,000 guards, did you plan on changing them all into the same equipment? It wasn't at this level at that time because there were some equipment that hadn't been developed yet. For example, the miniature magic hand crossbows and the miniature magic exploding arrows were developed not long ago. Sue replied. Miniature magic hand crossbows and miniature magic exploding arrows? 70 looked over the new Flyers guards, but she didn't see where these two pieces of equipment were. Only the human guards have these two pieces of equipment right now. They hide them on their bodies and won't easily take them out. Sue explained with a smile. Other than the human guards, the guards of the other races find these things too small and it doesn't suit their tastes, so they don't have any equipment. It's like this. 70 nodded. After pausing, she asked, if I were to equip my guards with the same set of equipment, how much would it cost? Sue looked at her and laughed. If it's a set of military magic machines, it would cost 300 gold coins. What? Your Highness, are you interested? 300 gold coins. 70's eyes popped out. 70's eyes widened. That expensive? The total number of guards in your Chamber of Commerce has already exceeded 1,000, right? If you equip each guard, wouldn't it cost over 300,000 gold coins? This is almost equal to the annual military expenditure of our Lampari Kingdom's army. If it's compared to the actual military expenditure of the Lampari Kingdom's army, there is no doubt that it far surpasses it. Sue replied with a faint smile. 70 of course understood the meaning in Sue's words. After being silent for a bit, she gave a sigh and shook her head. I wanted to equip my guards with the same set, but I never thought that it would cost 300 gold coins per set. If it's 5,000 sets, that would be 1.5 million gold coins. I don't have that much money. Sue gave a shrug. Actually, I don't have that much money, so the only guards who are equipped with military magic machines are the 100 human guards here. As for the other race guards, I just let them choose the equipment they like the most. That's more like it. 70 let out a sigh of relief. She looked at the two groups of guards on the field before continuing. All right, since everything is prepared, let's begin the operation. Sue made an inviting gesture. Please invite your Highness. 70 nodded and went to the stage that had already been prepared. She looked over the guards under the stage and cleared her throat before saying in a clear voice, Brave warriors, I've gathered you here today because some beastmen have committed unforgivable crimes. After 70 finished her short and passionate speech, a motorcade of magic cars came in from outside the field. These magic cars were different from the transport magic cars New Flyer announced before. They were all made of thick steel plates and were completely sealed, with only two thick pieces of glass in front. The entire magic car was very sharp and even looked a bit fierce, making people feel a strong sense of danger from it. Seeing these strange-looking magic cars charging in, 70 was surprised before asking Sue, These are the magic armored transport vehicles you mentioned to me before? Right. Whether it is the body or the tires of these magic armored transport vehicles, they are all specially made. They can take a certain amount of attacks and won't affect the people inside, so they are very suitable for transporting soldiers to the battlefield. Sue replied. 70 looked at the 50 magic armored transport vehicles on the field, and was a bit speechless. This was called taking a certain amount of attacks? Just with the thick steel plates, it was enough to block any attack, right? Not to mention that the steel plates were glowing with magic, it was clear that there were magic arrays engraved on them. There was no need to guess, these magic arrays had to be protective magic arrays. They could greatly increase the defensive power of these magic armored transport vehicles, even blocking some magic effect. Riding in these magic armored transport vehicles, they could charge through the battlefield. It's not that exaggerated. Sue shook his head with a smile. Don't forget, even if we don't talk about those powerful magicians, there are still powerful weapons like the magic trebuchet. How could magicians with that kind of strength make a move? Attacking these magic power armored vehicles is a complete waste of magic power, alright? 70 looked at Sue before looking at the magic armored transport vehicles. She couldn't help shaking her head and giving a sigh. If our Lampari Kingdom's army had the same equipment as your new Flyers Guards, we wouldn't need to worry about the threat of the Sack Kingdom at all. This. Sue gave a dry laugh. That's clearly impossible. I've spent over 500,000 gold coins on the equipment of the company's guards, not to mention the logistics, supplies, and training costs. On average, I've spent over 800 gold coins on each guard. How could the kingdom's army have that much money? 70 gave a sigh. The army doesn't even have 500,000 gold coins a year. How could they make the kingdom's army as luxurious as your new Flyers Guards? The more important thing is that those fellows in the kingdom, even if they have money, they wouldn't invest it in the army. They're too busy putting it in their pocket, Sue said with a cold smile. I've heard that the business department is using the name of encouraging and promoting the development of the magic machine industry to reduce the taxes of the 10 companies? Hey, those fellows, when they're making money for themselves, they really don't care about face at all. 70 knit her brows and was silent for a bit before shaking her head. I don't want to talk about this. Sue let them begin. Seeing 70's tired appearance, Sue gave a sigh in his heart. He walked onto the stage and looked over the two groups of prepared guards. He nodded and said in a low voice, I announce that the Black Rice Wasteland cleaning operation will begin now. Chapter 533. New Flyer worked with Her Highness 70 to clean up the beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland, but it didn't attract much attention in the Lampari Kingdom. Even the Banta Times, and the Lampari Weekly, that paid special attention to New Flyer and Her Highness 70 didn't mention this matter at all because of Suyi's care. However, the situation in the Lampari Kingdom couldn't be considered calm at all. Because the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had unilaterally ended their cooperation with the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, the department used the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's unilateral violation of the contract to rule that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had broken the contract, so the department took away their right to produce any magic machines in the kingdom. Unexpectedly for everyone, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce didn't oppose this decision at all. After the decision was made, New Flyer closed their production bases and workshops in 6 cities in the Lampari Kingdom in half a month, stopping all production of magic machines. The only ones that didn't stop were the service centers that New Flyer had set up in many cities, which were still providing after-sales service to customers who bought Xinfei brand magic machines. As for the other places, they moved out of the Falling Rain Valley and the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce and the Magic Machine Development Center branch in Santun Manor. Moreover, these 2 places were only researching and developing the magic machines that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had already developed. They weren't developing new products and weren't producing any magic machines, so they weren't restricted by the Magic Machine Industry Management Department's rules. Other than this, the only normal working factory for the Frestek Chamber of Commerce was the canned fruit factory in Koror Village. So in the blink of an eye, New Flyer went from being the company with the best prospects in the Lampari Kingdom to a company that couldn't produce any magic machines. To most people, this was a death sentence for New Flyer. A New Flyer that couldn't produce magic machines. Was New Flyer still a New Flyer? Of course, people didn't just sigh at the situation the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce was facing. There were many people who were shocked and even angry. When the Magic Machine Industry Management Department forced the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to release their technology and cooperate with the 10 companies, everyone thought that this was going against the principles of business and stealing from them. Now that Chairman Su couldn't take it and decided to end this unfair cooperation, the department wanted to take a mile after taking an inch, directly beating New Flyer to death. New Flyer didn't oppose the department's decision, but there were countless voices in the kingdom that questioned the department. In many cities of the kingdom, there were many citizens who gathered in front of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's service centers, publicly showing their support for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. In the newspapers of the various cities, there were all kinds of articles that supported the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Among them, the headline of the Lampuri Weekly was the most direct. Magic Machine Industry Management Department equals Head of Bandits? Paired with this horrifying title was an even more direct and incisive article. In this article, the spearhead was aimed at the department. It claimed that the department wasn't worthy of being the department in charge of managing the magic machine industry in the Lampari Kingdom. Rather, they were helping the 10 companies steal from New Flyer. They were simply the head of a group of bandits. This article wasn't like the other newspapers that used obscure words to criticize. Rather, it pointed out the Magic Machine Industry Management Department by name. It even mentioned at the end of the article that there were large nobles behind the 10 companies, which was why they had such strong support and dared to treat the Frestec Chamber of Commerce like this. The people who knew some inside information couldn't help being shocked after reading this article. This, Lampuri Weekly, actually dared to open fire on the department and even dared to point out the important people behind it. This was simply seeking death. However, after seeing the author's name, people immediately understood. It was actually Baron Hannes who personally wrote this article. This could be understood. But thinking about it, the people who knew some inside information felt that the shock in their hearts increased by several times. The reason why Baron Hannes could establish the Lampuri Weekly and the reason why the Lampuri Weekly could establish itself in Anvilmar City, as well as quickly becoming the most influential newspaper in the Lampuri Kingdom, was naturally because Baron Hannes had the support of some important people with great power. Now that he had publicly published this article in the Lampuri Weekly, this clearly represented the will of the important people behind him and clearly showed the attitude of those important people. This article was written in such a strong manner that the important people behind him who supported the New Flyer really were dissatisfied with the decision of the department. Among these people, Count Samo, who was the city lord of Seoul City, was the most intense and his attitude was the most clear. When the business department decided to increase the special tax on magic machines, Count Samo had done the opposite in Seoul City. He had given extra subsidies to magic machines and balanced out the special tax from the business department. Moreover, at the same time, Count Samo didn't have a positive attitude towards this special tax, so the magic machine companies that had just appeared in Seoul City were doing much better than the magic machine companies in the other cities of the kingdom. It was also because of Count Samo's policy that many magic machine companies from other cities moved to Seoul City. Now around the New Flyer's production base, there was a large magic machine industrial park that had been built outside Seoul City. Although it couldn't compare to the scale of Banta City from before, this magic machine industrial park contained all the magic machine-related companies, so it could be considered a small and complete industrial system. When the department announced that New Flyer was banned from producing magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom, Count Samo didn't do anything at all. He directly declared that the department's decision didn't conform to the laws of the kingdom, so Seoul City wouldn't accept it and wouldn't follow it. As a city lord, publicly going against the orders of the kingdom's management department was without a doubt a very serious matter. But Count Samo was still sitting in his position as Seoul City's city lord, not showing any signs of instability at all. Of course, the infighting between the important people was out of reach for the citizens at the bottom of the kingdom. For the citizens, they only found one thing. It was that because New Flyer was banned from producing magic machines, the large number of jobs created by the New Flyer's magic machine industry had been lost, directly and indirectly causing many people to lose their jobs. Although the 10 companies of the department began to recruit workers, the wages they gave were far from before. There was no need to mention the various benefits, so naturally countless people were dissatisfied. Other than this, the ones who suffered the most from this matter, other than New Flyer, were the small companies that relied on New Flyer to survive. After New Flyer was banned from producing magic machines, the small companies that were related to New Flyer were naturally affected. For example, the small companies that relied on manufacturing components for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and the other companies. Because the Frestec Chamber of Commerce stopped producing magic machines and the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department brought their components into their system, it made it hard for these small companies to receive orders. In less than a month after the Frestec Chamber of Commerce announced that they would stop production, there were several dozen small component processing companies in Banta City that announced that they would stop production. Adding in the companies that went out of business when the Magic Machine Industry Management Department imposed taxes on magic machines, in less than half a year, over half of the companies related to magic machines in Banta City had disappeared. The current Banta City, even if it was still very prosperous, it was far from half a year ago. The more important thing was that on the streets of Banta City, there were fewer and fewer Frestec Chamber of Commerce logos. The half-winged logos that could be seen everywhere had gradually disappeared, and what replaced them were the logos of the 10 companies that the Magic Machine Industry Management Department designated. Everything seemed to be announcing a fact. The New Flyer was about to disappear from Banta City. However, was the New Flyer really disappearing? Looking southwest from Banta City, coming to the Black Rice Wasteland that was around 200 kilometers away from Banta City, or heading south to the Principality of Constantine, one would find that not only did the New Flyer not disappear, it was quickly developing in these two places. On the road to the Black Rice Wasteland and the Principality of Constantine, there were many transport magic cars that were quickly moving, transporting the magic machines produced by the New Flyer to different destinations. The department only banned New Flyer from producing magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom, but they didn't ban New Flyer from selling magic machines in the kingdom. The reason? It was very simple. This matter was managed by the kingdom's business department, but the department couldn't decide this. Even if the business department wanted to target the New Flyer, how could they dare to make this kind of ban that would anger everyone? Even His Majesty Eric wouldn't dare make this kind of order. Chapter 534. Eric stared at the document in his hand with a frown. After a while, he let out a long sigh and put down the document. He closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose, letting himself relax a bit. He had been reading documents for an entire afternoon, and other than going to the bathroom once, he didn't have any time to rest, so naturally he felt very tired. Looking at the documents piled high on the table, Eric couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. Before he ascended the throne, he had always imagined that if he really became the king of this kingdom, how satisfying and happy it would be. But when he truly ascended the throne, he was only happy for the first few days. Then for close to half a year, he had been entangled in annoying work and didn't have any free time at all. This busy and tense life made him unable to help thinking about when he was still a prince. At that time, he didn't need to think about all these country matters. He could eat when he wanted, sleep when he wanted, and play when he wanted. But after becoming the king, because he was too busy, not only did he not sleep well, he had to squeeze out time to eat every day, not having any freedom at all. As for playing, even in his dreams, he was reading documents. Previously, when he saw how busy his father was in reviewing official documents, he didn't pay much attention to it. However, when he was doing it himself, He completely understood that being a king was really not a comfortable thing. Actually, he was very clear that the reason why he always felt tired was because he wasn't satisfied. Why did he want to become the king? Of course it was because the king had the most power in the kingdom. But after he became the king, he found that he didn't have any control over the kingdom at all. Whether it was the words or the orders he gave, no one cared, so what was the point of being the king? Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Before Eric could say anything, it was pushed open and a very familiar figure came in. Seeing this middle-aged man, who always had a very steady step that seemed to be measured with a ruler, slowly walk in front of him, Eric forced out a smile. "Duke Stagg, do you need something?" Count Stagg gave a slight bow to Eric. "Your Majesty, I've come to disturb you because of the budget meeting that will be held in 3 days." Count Stark's tone was calm without the slightest fluctuation, but when Eric heard it, his heart suddenly jumped. After a bit of silence, Eric asked, "Duke Stagg, do you have any suggestions on this?" "Yes." Duke Stagg nodded. "I heard that His Majesty intends to increase the budget of the military ministry, especially the budget of the Northern Army. Is that true?" Eric knit his brows. He had only revealed a bit of information, and this Duke Stagg had already come to find him. He really wasn't giving him any space at all. However, he only thought about it in his heart. On the surface, he still maintained a smile and said, "Yes, I do have such a plan." According to the reports, the Sack Kingdom seemed ready to make a move. In order to prevent the invasion of the Sack Kingdom, it was necessary to increase the budget of the army headquarters. If nothing goes wrong, the kingdom's revenue this year is quite good, so it shouldn't be a problem to increase the budget. Count Stark pondered for a moment before asking, "Your Majesty, have you thought of a very important question?" "What question?" "At the beginning of next year, the loans you've borrowed from the nobles of the kingdom will be due. If you can't pay them back by then, you'll lose many important supporters." "Debts?" Eric deeply knit his brows. This so-called debts were the various investments the nobles of the kingdom had made before he took the throne. It was just that those guys called it donations, but when he ascended to the throne, he immediately treated it as a loan and asked Eric to pay it back. The 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department were actually those fellows behind them. Eric had always disliked the New Flyer, so in this name, not only could he take care of the New Flyer, he could also use this to pay off the debt. This was killing 2 birds with 1 stone for him. Moreover, not only would the technology be in the hands of the New Flyer, it would also be very beneficial to the kingdom. Thus, Eric had always been indulging the department of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department in their petty actions against the New Flyer. Their main goal was to take away the profits that originally belonged to the New Flyer. However, it was still a short period of time, and the influence of those 10 companies on the market was far inferior to that of the New Flyer, so they wouldn't be able to generate much profit in a short period of time. The debt that the nobles mentioned was still a very big headache for Eric. "But if we use the kingdom's funds to pay off the debts, the kingdom will be very nervous next year," Eric said rather helplessly. After ascending the throne for half a year, Eric found that he was more like a merchant than a king. Because every day, almost all the time, he was worried about money. He was even worried about the small amount of gold coins that he didn't care about before. As long as he became the king, he would understand just how bad of a situation the Lampuri kingdom was facing. Although the Lampari kingdom's overall revenue had been continuously increasing in the past 2 years, according to the estimates, this year's revenue wouldn't exceed 3 million gold coins. If this money was placed in a city, it would be considered considerable, but if it was placed in the country, it was simply pitiful. Not mentioning anything else, just the military expenses. Based on the statistics of the Northern Army when Eric was fighting the Sack Kingdom, the average cost was between 50 to 70,000 gold coins a day. The war with the Sack Kingdom lasted less than a month, and they had already spent over 1,000,000 gold coins. Furthermore, these battles weren't that intense. If they were to launch an all-out war, the military expenditure would probably be doubled. Of course, in order to create momentum for Eric, the nobles that supported him had invested a large amount in the Northern Army, which was much higher than the military expenses of the Northern Army. But according to the military expenses of the Northern Army before, they had to spend at least 100,000 gold coins a year when they weren't in war. Adding in the other armies of the kingdom, the army headquarters' budget of 300,000 gold coins a year was simply too tight. Eric had been on the battlefield and had personally seen the ferocity of the Sack Kingdom's soldiers. Naturally, he knew that he had to increase the strength of the Northern Army to ensure the safety of the Lampari Kingdom. But the problem was money. The kingdom's annual revenue was 3,000,000 gold coins. Putting aside the 1,000,000 gold coins for administration and the various benefits for the nobles, it would cost close to 1,000,000 gold coins. Of the remaining 1,000,000 gold coins, they would have to take out a portion of it to build the kingdom's infrastructure. For example, the agriculture department had proposed to make changes to the kingdom's farmland like Banta City, which would cost 200,000 gold coins. Adding in all the other things, there weren't many gold coins left. Wanting to squeeze out the 500,000 gold coins that Eric thought was the lowest military expenses, how could it be easy? Your Majesty, I understand your worries. Seeing the awkward look on Eric's face, Duke Stagg said with a faint smile, "Of course it is necessary to guarantee the kingdom's military strength first. But you don't need to increase the military budget to increase the military strength, right?" Eric was surprised. If we don't increase the military budget, how can the military strength increase? I've been in the Northern Army before. I understand that without money, the soldiers can't even fill their stomachs, so how could they have any battle strength? That's right. But Your Majesty, have you ever thought that the kingdom's military budget is limited and it's hard to increase it? Instead of using limited military budget to support large amounts of soldiers, which can't guarantee the military strength of these soldiers, it's better to reduce the number of soldiers and walk the path of elite soldiers, which will make it easier to increase their battle strength. Duke Stagg said. Streamline the army? Eric frowned. Eric knit his brows. Duke Stagg, our kingdom's real army is less than 50,000, it's already hard enough to defend the kingdom with this number. If we reduce it, wouldn't the kingdom be filled with holes? Even if we can defend against the Sack Kingdom, what about the other aspects? That is very simple. Duke Stagg was clearly prepared as he continued with a faint smile. The kingdom's army is only responsible for defending the main targets. As for the secondary tasks, nobles like me naturally have the duty to help defend them. Eric was stunned. What do you mean? Take the Northwest province that the Northern Army is mainly stationed in as an example. Right now the Northern Army is guarding against the Sack Kingdom's invasion. Not only are they guarding the kingdom's northern border, they are also placing large amounts of troops in the Northwest province, which I don't think is necessary at all. The Northwest province has a total of 7 nobles' private territories, so these 7 noble families have the responsibility to defend their territories, so we can let them share some of the responsibility. Eric shook his head. How could that be? This is the duty of the kingdom's army. The nobles' private guards are only responsible for defending their own territories. How could they be involved in defending the kingdom's territory? Your Majesty, when you led the Northern Army to attack the Sack Kingdom, you obtained the help of many nobles' private guards. Why aren't you allowing them to do their part now? Seeing that Eric was still hesitating, Duke Stagg added. The most important thing is that the expenses of these nobles' private guards will be taken care of by the nobles themselves. The kingdom's finances won't take care of it. Wouldn't this save a lot of military expenses? Eric knit his brows as he fell into deep thought. After a while, his right hand unconsciously patted the table as he softly said, "This seems to be a way." Chapter 535. A medium transport magic car was quickly driving through the black rice wasteland. The road under the tires was the new road that New Flyer had invested in using the new technology of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Not only was the road 10 meters wide, it was enough for 4 large transport magic cars to drive side by side, and it was much smoother than the previous road. Even if one drove on it at close to 50 kilometers an hour, they would only feel a slight bump and wouldn't feel any discomfort at all. Actually, this speed had already surpassed the speed that New Flyer had set for the medium transport magic car, but for an old driver like Old Man Sarkozy, exceeding the speed limit was normal. If it wasn't for the fact that this medium transport magic car's speed was only 50 kilometers an hour, he definitely would have gone even faster. Old Man Sarkozy had one hand on the steering wheel and the other hand grabbed a bottle of fresh fruit juice, drinking it down in a single gulp. It was already early winter and this bottle of fresh fruit juice had been there for a while, so naturally it was a bit cold. Drinking it down, Old Man Sarkozy couldn't help shivering. It was easy to get tired after driving for too long, so drinking a mouthful of fresh fruit juice not only stimulated one's mind, it could also replenish one's nutrients. This was what Old Man Sarkozy often did when he was transporting goods. When the jug of fresh fruit juice was put down, Old Man Baltro, who was lying in the back, woke up. He gave a yawn and looked outside before asking Old Man Sarkozy, "Where are we?" "We just arrived at the black rice wasteland," Old Man Sarkozy casually replied. Baltro looked around the car before nodding. It's all right. All right, I'll take over, you've already been driving for several hours." "It's fine," Old Man Sarkozy denied. Old Man Sarkozy said without any hesitation, "We'll be at the base of the black rice wasteland in a bit, we'll take over when we come out. Wake up first." Baltro's father thought for a while and didn't insist on staying at home. He crawled from the back seat to the front passenger seat and sat down. After looking outside for a while, Old Man Baltro suddenly asked, "Hey, Sarkozy, are you really planning on moving?" Old Man Sarkozy didn't expect him to ask this question as soon as he woke up. After being stunned for a bit, he nodded and gave an unsound. "This time, I will take a good look at the environment of the Principality of Constantine, and then decide whether to move there or not." However, according to the villagers who had lived in the Principality of Constantine for more than a year, the environment in the Principality of Constantine was really good. The climate was good and they all lived very comfortably. "So I think they will most likely choose to move." Baltro slightly knit his brows. He turned to look at Old Man Sarkozy's expression and confirmed that he wasn't joking at all. Your family has lived in Mexelen village for over 100 years, right? Were they really going to move? How can you bear to do that?" Old Man Sarkozy said with an uncaring laugh. What is there to be reluctant about? Didn't it matter where he lived? At the end of the day, he would naturally choose to live a good life wherever he could. Now that Banta City has been turned into a mess by those companies, there definitely wouldn't be any good staying there. "It's not that bad," Baltro refuted. "Although those companies can't do things as well as the New Flyer, they are only a few companies in the end. Could they turn Banta City upside down?" "You don't believe me?" Baltro gave a cold snort. "Those fellows can even chase away the New Flyer, what can't they do? Even if we don't talk about this, let's just talk about our family. Now that my 3 brats have lost their jobs, if they want to find work in Banta City, they can only go to those companies. But do you know how much they are paying? 6 gold coins a month. It isn't even half of their previous monthly wage." Baltro said in a muffled voice, "It's not like we can't live on 6 gold coins, didn't we live without earning that much before? The past is the past. Anyway, if you want me to live a life where I can't even eat my fill, I definitely won't do it." Old Man Sarkozy said with a cold snort, "My 3 brats aren't willing, so after discussing it, we've decided to move." As long as we work for the new flyer, we can earn close to 20 gold coins a month with any job. It isn't much better than staying in Banta City. It's like this, but Sarkozy, have you thought of a problem? Baltro then asked. Baltro asked again. According to the new rules of the City Lord Manor, if you move out of Banta City without permission, you will be considered a citizen of Banta City. This means that it's easy for you to move out, but it's hard to move back. Moreover, I'm worried that the kingdom's parliament might make a similar rule in the future. If you move out and aren't recognized as a citizen of the kingdom, what will you do? It's fine if they don't recognize it. Old man Sarkozy still looked like he didn't care, clearly already considering this problem. I just said it, we'll go wherever we can live. It's not related to Banta City or the Lampari Kingdom. But we are people of the Lampari Kingdom if we leave like this. Are you really willing? Why wouldn't I be willing? Now that this damn king is messing around and doesn't treat us commoners as people, why would we be unwilling? For commoners like us, we don't need to consider the matters of the country. Anyway, those important people never put us in their eyes. Old man Sarkozy said with a look of disdain. Baltro was silent for a bit before he couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. Although he felt that old man Sarkozy's attitude wasn't right, he couldn't find a reason to refute him. Because old man Sarkozy was speaking the truth. After the new King Eric took the throne, the entire Lampari Kingdom and Banta City had changed. The prosperous Banta City that had been filled with prosperity had now become the plaything of the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Other than driving out the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and squeezing out the other companies that produced magic machines, taking over the magic machine industry of Banta City, those 10 companies had already reached their hands into other areas, gradually eroding the market of the old companies of Banta City. Although those old companies were desperately resisting with their foundations, it was becoming more and more strenuous, gradually showing signs of collapse. It was fine if it was just normal business competition, it wasn't directly related to normal citizens like Old Man Sarkozy and Old Man Baltro. Perhaps there would be some benefits from the competition between the companies. But the problem was that after the 10 companies controlled these areas, they also deeply affected the lives of the citizens. For example, like what old man Sarkozy said just now, those 10 companies controlled the magic machine industry in Banta City, but they had lowered the wages of the industry that created the most jobs to a very low standard. This was something that the citizens of Banta City who worked in this industry couldn't accept. Then, for example, when they transported goods from Banta City to Anvilmar City, it would cost them 30 gold coins for a round trip. Taking away the consumption on the way, they could earn around 10 gold coins. In a month, they could even make more than 10 trips and earn close to 200 gold coins. Dividing it evenly, each person would receive close to 100 gold coins. Even in the previous Banta City, this was considered a high income. However, now that these 10 companies controlled Banta City's transport, suppressing the cost of transport, if they transported goods to Anvilmar City, they would only have to pay 15 gold coins for a round trip, which was only half of what it was before. With this low cost of transportation, if they took away the consumption on the way, they could only earn a few gold coins. If there was a problem on the way, they might lose everything and even lose money. So after making these 2 trips, old man Sarkozy decided not to take the transport business of the 10 companies. He contacted the new flyer again and helped the new flyer transport goods between the Black Rice Wasteland, the Principality of Constantine, and Banta City. Although it was much more tiring because of the long journey, the new flyer had always been generous with their transportation fees. Their profit was only a bit lower than before, but it wasn't that much lower. There were many private transport companies like them in Banta City, and other than a few that stopped, most of them chose to continue working with the new flyer. Moreover, because of the suppression of the 10 companies, The Furson Carriage Company that took most of the transport business in Banta City was having a hard time, and it was said that they couldn't hold on any longer. Last time when Old Man Baltro accidentally met Chairman Pompey in Banta City, he saw that his face was filled with worry, and even his incomparably fat body had become much thinner. Thinking of Chairman Pompey's depressed expression, Old Man Baltro suddenly felt that Sarkozy's words were very reasonable. Since they couldn't live in Banta City anymore, why did they need to defend it to the death? To the bigwigs of the kingdom, the lives of these lowly commoners were nothing to them. Since they didn't care about them, why should they care about them? After thinking this through, Old Man Baltro felt like his eyes had cleared up and he felt much more refreshed. After thinking about it, he said to Old Man Sarkozy, "All right, I'll take this chance to observe the environment of the Principality of Constantine. I hope that it is as good as those people say." Seeing that Old Man Baltro had finally changed his mind, Old Man Sarkozy broke out in laughter. "Relax, that place is definitely better than you think." Baltro gave a slight nod as he couldn't help feeling a bit of anticipation for this trip. Chapter 536. Compared to 2 years ago when the New Flyer and the other companies first built this production base on the Black Rice Wasteland, this production base was now 10 times bigger. It even took over 10 square kilometers and couldn't be described as a base anymore. Other than the various factories that the New Flyer had built in half a year, because of the large number of people who moved here, this place had gradually developed into a town. In the early stages of development, the New Flyer had planned out the entire area around the base. It was the same as the new city district outside Banta City. The New Flyer had divided this area into an industrial area and a living area. Moreover, each place was very similar to the new city district outside Banta City. For example, there were several dozen roads in this area. Other than the road to Banta City, there was another road to the Principality of Constantine to the south and another road to the west, going into the depths of the Black Rice Wasteland. It was said that it would reach the endless sea. There was also a road to the north that was being planned. According to the news released by the New Flyer, this road to the north would reach the border between the Black Rice Wasteland and the Sac Kingdom to the north. It would also connect to the road network to the north of the Lampari Kingdom. If this was realized, the Black Rice Wasteland would be connected to all the surrounding areas. With the special location of the Black Rice Wasteland, this place was enough to become the hub of the Lampari Kingdom, or even the entire western signs that was closest to the endless sea. Just based on the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's factories that had been moved here, as well as the 2 new steel mills that had been built, this place had become very lively. There were countless large and small transport magic cars that carried the goods of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and the other companies that came with them. They kept going in and out, transporting goods in and out. Old Man Sarkozy and Old Man Baltro had been entrusted by the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce to transport a cart of non-ferrous metal ore from Kramer City to the New Flyer steel mill here. In a normal situation, they would head back after transporting this batch of goods. But Old Man Sarkozy had decided to move from Banta City to the Principality of Constantine. After resting here for a bit, they would head to the New Flyer's new base in the Principality of Constantine to inspect it. In order not to waste this trip, they were planning to see if there were any transport missions to the Principality of Constantine. It should be said that their luck wasn't bad. After sending the non-ferrous metal ores to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's steel mill, the manager of the steel mill, who was familiar with Old Man Sarkozy, directly gave him the job of transporting the refined alloys to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's Stantine Duchy. Although the transport cost this time wasn't high, only a trivial 20 gold coins, Old Man Sarkozy still agreed. Leaving the medium transport magic car at the steel mill, Old Man Sarkozy and Old Man Baltro left the steel mill. They headed to the living area on the other side, preparing to find a place to rest for the night. Walking on the road to the living area, Old Man Sarkozy looked at the bustling crowd around him before looking at the familiar new flyer street lamps on both sides. Finally he looked at the familiar factories on both sides of the road, and he couldn't help giving an emotional sigh. Look, this place is no different from the new district of Banta City. Baltro nodded. After all, it was all planned by Chairman Su, so there's no difference in style. He looked into the distance after saying this, and his expression became a bit strange. Old Man Sarkozy's expression became strange. It's only been a few days and there are already so many trees. With this speed, the Black Rice Wasteland won't be considered a wasteland soon, right? Old Man Sarkozy looked at the lush greenery in the distance and said with a sigh, "The elves are really good at planting trees. They can even change the Black Rice Wasteland like this. If they did this earlier, the Black Rice Wasteland would have already been changed." You think the elves didn't want to do this? It's just that the beastmen occupied the Black Rice Wasteland before and didn't let the elves in. Baltro said with a sigh, "It's probably only someone like Chairman Su who can make the beastmen and elves live in peace, as well as make the beastmen agree to the elves changing the Black Rice Wasteland. The beastmen aren't fools. The new flyer has given them a good life, so of course they'll listen to Chairman Su. Then again, do you think the beastmen want to live in the wasteland? If the Black Rice Wasteland's environment becomes better, they'll definitely be happy." Old Man Sarkozy said. After all, the Black Rice Wasteland didn't have any value before. But now that it's like this, perhaps many people will have ideas. I wonder if Chairman Su has considered this problem? Baltro said in a worried voice. Tempted? Old Man Sarkozy laughed before suddenly pointing at the road in the distance. Do you see it? If you want to have any ideas, you have to ask them first. Baltro looked in the direction that Old Man Sarkozy was pointing in and saw that on the road leading to the Black Rice Wasteland, there were several dozen magic cars covered in steel plates that were raising dust in the air as they quickly drove over. These. Could it be the law enforcement team of the new flyer? Baltro looked at the fierce-looking magic cars in surprise as his face filled with shock. Oh my God! Just based on these magic cars they can just charge around, right? Isn't that right? Look at those magic cars. They seem to be called magic armored vehicles. Aren't their shells covered in blood? Baltro narrowed his eyes and found that there was a layer of dark red on the outside of the magic armored vehicles, which might really be covered in blood. Just how many beastmen did they kill? Baltro couldn't help saying in a shocked voice. How would I know? Anyway, I just know that the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland are very obedient. This place hasn't been harassed or attacked by beastmen in a long time. Old Man Sarkozy said with a laugh. Those beastmen really deserve it. They had to make Chairman Su angry. Now that the law enforcement team of the new flyer goes out to clean them up every 2 days, they know how to behave. Aren't the beastmen bullying the weak and fearing the strong? Baltro also revealed a smile. Turning to look, he found that in the crowd that had gathered around to watch the magic armored vehicles, there were quite a few beastmen of different shapes mixed in. However, what confused Old Man Baltro was that when these beastmen saw the magic armored vehicles, they were all filled with excitement and joy. Not a single one of them looked unhappy. Baltro couldn't help feeling confused. The law enforcement team of the new flyer went out to clean up beastmen. As fellow beastmen, it was fine if they weren't angry at all, but why were they this happy? Could it be that beastmen were all heartless fellows? The motorcade of 20 magic armored vehicles didn't enter the industrial area or the living area, rather they passed through it. In front of a group of people, they entered the new flyer guard camp to the northeast of the base. Before the car even stopped, Hart jumped out and didn't stop as he walked into the office in the camp. You're back? How was it this time? How many did you kill? The dwarf guard captain of the new flyer guards, Omar, was training with a giant iron ball in his hand. When he saw Hart come in, he immediately asked this with a smile. On the other side, the elf guard captain Furio was more sensitive than Omar. Seeing that Hart's expression wasn't good, he was a bit surprised. What? Did something happen? Were there big losses? There weren't any losses, those beastmen brats can't beat our brothers. But there was a bit of an accident, Hart replied in a deep voice. He touched his waist and took out a long sword that he placed on the table. What is this? Omar and Forio looked at the long sword in surprise. This is something I took from a beastman, Hart explained. Omar didn't react, but Forio's expression changed as he said in a surprised voice, "Those beastmen actually have weapons?" Forio took the long sword and carefully looked it over before slightly knitting his brows. The craftsmanship of this sword isn't bad, it doesn't seem like something the beastmen could make. Hart nodded, it's not just that. Look at this. Hart took the sword from Forio's hand and turned the hilt to the two of them. He pointed at the edge of the sword and said, "Look at the curve here and the small gap here. I'm certain that this sword came from the Sac Kingdom." Sac Kingdom? Omar and Forio were surprised. Omar and Forio were shocked. How is it related to the Sac Kingdom? I don't know. Hart shook his head. When I was in the Northern Army, I fought with those fellows from the Sac Kingdom many times, so I can recognize it. But I don't know how these beastmen are related to the Sac Kingdom. If it was just this sword, I could guess that the beastmen got it from who knows where. But the beastmen we met this time were all equipped with weapons, which is a bit strange. Omar and Forio glanced at each other, their expressions turning grave. It was like Hart said, the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland didn't know how to forge weapons at all. Adding in the fact that they were always poor, it was hard for them to even have the most basic necessities, so weapons were an extravagant hope for them. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards were invincible on the Black Rice Wasteland, beating all the beastmen into submission. Other than the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards being strong, the main reason was the difference in equipment between the two sides. Each guard of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had a full set of equipment, as well as several military magic machines. As for the beastmen, they didn't have any armor at all. Their weapons were just old iron rods as well as some rocks. With this difference in equipment, how could the beastmen resist the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards who were also equipped with the magic armored vehicles? However now, Hart found that the beastmen they met this time were all equipped with weapons. Although this didn't pose any threat to the new flyer guards, this situation was very strange, so naturally the three of them became vigilant. Forio was silent for a bit before saying to the two of them, "No matter what, let's report this situation to the chairman first." Hart and Omar looked at each other before nodding. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.